How about those deeks, though? All right. Check the balance in the
Why don't you
app.
get yourself into the 30 club?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're talking my language. This is how I was doing the whole first half of the year when I was on skid.
Yeah.
Because I was like, hey, the money's coming in.
That's right.
We're just not representing ourselves well on the podcast. All right, first things first, we have Stanford Steve as usual. Less games, probably a little less time with Steve. We're going to pick our locks. We'll get into that in a little bit, talk about each divisional round matchup this weekend, as well as on the tail end of the show. A good buddy of the program who hadn't been on in a while, and Dave Dameshek is going to join us, and we're going to do a draft. It was Macon's idea. It's a genius idea. We're going to draft every team in the league on their 3-year outlook.
All the teams that aren't currently playing.
Yep.
Is that clear?
Or draft from the pool of all teams not playing this
From
weekend.
that pool.
24 teams. There are 8 teams playing. There are 24
Five
not
picks
playing.
apiece.
5 picks apiece.
Yeah, so don't get too deep. You know, I don't want to have to cut hairs here and pick between the Saints and you know.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about how you say cut hairs. You know, because splitting hairs is the difficult thing. Anybody can just cut hairs.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, there are people cutting hairs all over the place right now.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's good. You know what's not good? Your gambling habit.
Hey. You're to blame is one of my
I am,
first
but as I
thoughts.
put to you before, like, where would you be without this? Sure, you'd have a couple more bucks to, I don't know, what the fuck do you
Invest?
do with, yeah, sure. Invest. Do you know what's going on with our economy right now? What are you going to invest in? They're talking about, do we raise the debt ceiling? Do we not raise the debt ceiling?
Well, what you do is you buy the dip. You know, you stay in the market long term.
Yep. You might not have Social Security.
Your portfolio grows. But no, instead I'm making a donation to the lovely folks at the Steve Wynn Resort.
I think it should be a write-off, personally.
Yeah.
And we found out that it could be if you work for a gambling company. Maybe you need to tap into that.
Hey, there's no problem here. Here's what happened. I went to a basketball game last night. Concurrently, I had a little 4-gamer going on. We'll get into it. I had a little 4-gamer going on. The first 3 legs hit. The 4th didn't. Xavier lost at DePaul by 1. Xavier, what are you doing, America's teams? And
what are the Flyers doing, America's teams? You see, it's like we cursed all the teams on America's teams.
I mush any college that.
But a guy's like, I'm not wearing the Pride jersey.
It's awful.
I think one of my other America's teams, something else happened.
So then it was like plus 300, and I was like, well, that would have been cool. Let me get that back somehow.
Yeah.
Jumped on Arkansas up 4 with about 3 to go.
Yeah. Naturally.
It was like minus 530.
Woo pig.
And it ended really poorly. Call your timeouts, Muss. Fuck. Hey, Kingston, how do we do in that Icelandic basketball game?
I haven't checked.
Okay.
Yep.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
The numbers are responsible, so nobody get worried, especially if you're my wife, my dad, my children.
Right.
We're fine.
Right.
And actually, we see it pretty well. We see college hoops pretty well.
Yep.
We're getting to learn the NFL, 10,000 hours, that sort of thing. 100,000
Like
hours.
a pilot.
But then we just need to set some boundaries.
But you're like a pilot that's crashing the plane before you get to 10,000 hours.
Right. Over and over.
Fatality. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we got to work on this. The basketball.
Hey.
Yeah.
Player, let's say you send me $5,000.
Right.
Today.
Right. Here's what I got.
I'll send you $5,100 tomorrow.
Not gonna do it, but I will give you $1,000.
Okay.
One string attached. I want you to put this whole thing in your mouth. They're threes, dude. They're like, it's nothing. Those are threes. Like, there's not enough nicotine in there to give a 2-year-old a buzz. You put all those in your upper and bottom lips right now, I'll give you $1,000.
That draft with Dameshek might be a challenge.
No, he's gonna be like Superman. It's gonna be like limitless.
There are a lot
Bradley
in
Cooper
here.
up in this motherfucker. Yeah, do the math. I mean, let me count them.
You do what? 1 at a time?
I do like 18 at a time.
No, you don't.
No, not 18 at threes. I do like 3 times 6 at a time.
Not speaking my language.
That math checks out.
Yeah, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Cowboy, what would you do?
You got
if you were me?
27 milligrams of nicotine. That's nothing.
Nicotine?
Yeah.
Is that like cigarettes?
Yeah. But not like cigarettes.
Not dangerous to you though, because there's no like smoke inhalation.
You're basically a lab rat right now. You're like a lab rat, and then you'll be Bradley Cooper.
Is there something else I can do?
Looks like you're gonna do
20 push-ups?
insert ACC school money line here instead.
Well, I don't have the funds to do that. But listen, I've got nothing.
This is a good sign. You're not that addicted to gambling if you're
right.
willing
If you're not willing to
turn
put that
down money.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of what I was trying to prove.
Nice, cool. Hey, I saw that. But seriously, like, give me the $1,000.
I can't do that.
Tomorrow, I'm going to send you $1,050.
Here's why I can't do that.
Yeah.
Waylon, Luke,
What
Megan.
about them? We'll write up a contract. If I happen to lose all of your monies tonight,
Yeah.
I'm still going to owe you the money. I'll pay you the money.
Let's revisit it at the end of the pod.
Okay.
See if I change my mind.
All right.
Okay. Tell me about the basketball game. Steph Curry was there.
Steph was there.
Ty Jerome was there. Steph Curry was there.
Yeah, this is Virginia beating Virginia Tech Wednesday night by 10 points at JPJ in Seaville. Steph was there. The Warriors were just at the White House to play the Wizards. Ty Jerome is on the team. He was part of that UVA national title team. He came back to see the UVA Hoops family and brought Steph and Moses Moody. And
a member of your All Vibes team.
That's right.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah. Hey, sorry for more work, Cowboy. Can we insert Kendrick Perkins trying to say Moses Moody right now? Because that's a fun time.
You look at Moses Moody.
Okay, so yeah. So
was Steph like talking to people? Were people bothering Steph? Did he seem to have a good time?
Steph was courtside right next to the little TV table where I don't know who was on the call. Billis and somebody else. And so no, not.
You saw Billis at a coffee shop yesterday. You walked up here. You were like, I sat right next to Jay Billis at the coffee shop. I said, did you remind him that you got drunk with him? And he said, I don't know what you're talking about.
I really didn't.
Yeah, well, you got drunk with Jay Billis and Charles Barkley and Stanford Steve at the national championship in Minneapolis.
The thing about
you forgot.
Well, that's because Charles Barkley swallows a room.
Yeah.
I mean,
room swallower.
I had forgotten about Bill. Frankly, I had forgotten Stanford Steve.
Who are the biggest room swallowers you've ever been around?
Charles Barkley, for sure.
Yeah.
There's not a bigger one.
Howie Long can swallow a room.
Yeah. I've just known him most of my life.
Yeah, so you're desensitized to it.
Yeah. But yeah, Billis was at the coffee shop then at the game. Nah, Steph was not bothered except for one group. Like, this occurred to me. I watched Steph for so much of that game just to see if he was having a good time.
Yes, you were worried about it.
I cannot imagine how many eyes are on a guy like that at all times.
All times.
It must be exhausting. It must be something you got to get used to or else it's a problem.
You're going to go crazy.
So Steph looked like he was having a great time. The only group that screwed it up for us was the baseball team. God love them. They run out for the T-shirt toss. They're throwing T-shirts to the fans. They're playing it cool too until they're ushered off the court, and then 12 of them run up to Steph to take selfies.
Buzzers going off.
And I'm like, yeah. So what? You're going to show your kids one day, and your kids are going to be old enough to realize, oh, so you just bothered that man.
No, I don't think the picture will give that away.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But no, it was a great scene.
Good.
The Steph's bodyguard was there, and
how big is the bodyguard?
Giant.
Yeah. You want a big bodyguard, but you don't want too big a bodyguard.
Here's the problem with the bodyguard, who looked to be an excellent bodyguard.
Yeah.
He was huge, and he was wearing a leather Golden State Warriors jacket.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So if your job is to protect Steph Curry, if somebody's trying to kidnap Steph Curry, maybe don't wear the Warriors jacket.
He protect and he attract.
Yes.
Which is like, I don't even get that meme, but a lot of people, there's a meme that says he protect, but he attack. I think it might be one of these fucking Jamal Williams cartoons. Or Pokemon or something. I'll have to ask Nate.
Who's win by 10. Steph had a good time. Michael Vick was also in the house, not courtside, but second row.
Oh.
And the halftime entertainment was the Frisbee Dogs.
My favorite.
Oh, good.
They ran the Frisbee Dogs out there with Michael Vick 10 feet away. There's the cough button.
We got a new cough button here.
Yeah. Put $1,000 into the jar.
How about a fucking jar of Benadryl?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Frisbee dog poop on the court?
Oh, good question.
That's like the bingo for me.
Yeah, I don't know that I have.
Frisbee dog or red panda?
Oh, frisbee dog.
Really?
Yeah. I think red panda's overrated, I hate to say.
Jesus.
I also think those bulls might be magnetized. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I've been like under red panda.
Yeah.
While she's
Yep.
unicycling around
Yep.
out there, and there's some weird physics going on.
Yep.
So you kind of coughed over my Michael Vick dog joke. I tweeted about it. A lot of people stand up for Michael Vick. He's done his time. Get his name out your mouth.
Well, he kind of has done his time.
okay, I
it
can
was
still
a horrible
dislike
thing.
him for murdering dogs.
Yeah, for sure you can.
Yeah.
It's fair as fuck.
And hey, a lot of good Hokies out there. I'm just not sure that he's one of them. Don't know the guy personally.
Favorite Hokie?
My favorite Hokie.
Maybe not that many good Hokies out there.
Del Curry for
Yeah,
fathering Steph.
Okay.
Seems like a
Yep.
fine young man. By the way, son of Del Curry, rooting for the Who's last night.
Yeah, that was weird.
Getting out of his seat a few times. That Reese Beekman dunk at the
Yep.
end of the first
Yep,
half.
that was beautiful.
Was particularly great. Yeah. It was a good time, good atmosphere.
Okay, I told you I had some good audio. I guess it's the Miss Universe pageant, and they're all supposed to tell
their
people
country.
where they're from. The woman from France, it sounded like she was a wild animal. So every time the word France is mentioned in the show, I want that audio played after I say France.
Impersonate how she just said it.
France! It was unbelievable. I mean, these are all beautiful women, right? Yeah.
I look for the inner hotness,
Yeah, you do.
I don't really see outer hotness.
Yeah.
So I'll take your word for it.
Okay, I just wanted to put that into our audio bank.
France!
Hey, The Last of Us. Reed, I saw it. Kingston, I saw it. Macon, I'm sure you haven't seen it because you think it's not real, but it could be real. You should listen to the scientist that opens the show in 1968 talking about fungus and how it could. Basically, it's a zombie show. It's like, have you ever watched a zombie movie or a zombie show?
I don't think so.
Remember The Walking Dead?
No, I did not watch that.
Okay. So in these shows, like the whole world gets infected with a virus that turns them into zombies. You with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, this one's much the same, but it's a little bit different. In this show, if you've ever watched like Planet Earth or Our Planet, sometimes you get to the bug episodes and they're kind of boring until these flesh-eating fungi take over like ants and shit, and they reanimate the ants, and the ants like were dead, but the fungus makes them move and shit. So that they extrapolate, and I don't know how much of this is real science, but that it is not impossible that if the earth warmed a couple of degrees, these fungi could mutate and they could look for hosts.
Yeah, like the guy says we shouldn't be worried about like bacteria and virus. We should be worried about fungus.
Now, this is a fictional scientist.
Yeah.
So I don't know how true any of this is, but the leap in logic made for the sake of the show, and it's based on a video game for fuck's sake, but is that the fungus takes these people over and they become zombies, and they're terrifying. They're not like Walking Dead zombies where they literally walk around aimlessly. These fuckers are fast. They're really fast.
Dogs seem to know who they are, though.
Dogs know who they are. And the show is set in 2003, and then it jumps 20 years ahead. Pedro Pascal's in there. Cowboy Reed's dead ringer.
What do you think? So the first episode split up into that first like 30 minutes from 2003. What do you think of that first part of the show, like setting the scene?
I thought it was good. I think the pacing's great, which is usually my issue with shows is like pacing and kind of like plot sharing.
Show me, don't tell me.
Yeah, show me, don't tell me. They're doing a good job with it. I don't want to give away any of the plot, but it's an hour and a half. How many of these are there going to be?
I think there's either 8 or 10 episodes this first season, but that first episode was extra long in length, so I don't think they'll all be like an hour and a half long.
Well,
60 minutes.
No, it was an hour and a half. I watched
it'll be out Sunday, Macon. please
Oh no.
take a chance.
Oh God.
You might like it.
You might like it. And like I said, he is a fictional scientist, but there's a scientist that leads you to believe this could happen. So it's not technically fiction. I know you're like fantasy and shit. This could be a real thing.
Yeah.
You might get reanimated by a fungi.
Yeah. I don't want to leave this.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I'm watching a show called
Yeah.
Fleischman is in Trouble about a cat who's going through a divorce.
Yep.
And I love it.
Yep.
I love
Happens all
love
the
it.
time.
Yeah. Very real.
50% of the time.
Very real.
Yeah.
And so it would just be maybe a shock to my system.
Bro, you watch
to go
the show.
from
I promise
divorce
you.
to zombie.
Anybody listening, watch the show, The
And
Last of
fungus.
Us.
It's more like Children of Men than World War Z. It's more
Yes.
of like a survival movie.
It's
almost,
interesting because it kind of it explores what people will act like. I mean, and Walking Dead, bro. Walking Dead, I watched Walking Dead for like 4 years. They couldn't even get out of Atlanta. Like they
Yeah.
were just in Georgia the whole fucking time, weren't they?
Yeah.
They never moved. Episode 1, we're getting ready to drive across the country. Hello, we're going to go see what's out there. There's raiders out there. There's other things.
Yep.
Walking Dead, they never got out of the backyard.
Yeah, I'm
Pedro
super
Pascal's
excited.
loading up the pickup truck to go west already. So, yeah, check the show out.
I'm just happy for you. Nothing like a show that you love.
Yeah, well, the only thing that sucks about it is I've gotten so used to binging everything. When we finished,
Oh, wait.
I don't know if there's a code break. I watched it with Meg. She's tired. She goes to bed. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll watch the next episode.
But then do you act like you haven't seen it and then watch it again?
No, I
with
tell her. I
Okay.
tell her. Sometimes I'll be like, hey, catch up in your free time.
Once
Let's meet up episode 3.
or twice watching a show with my wife, I'll jump ahead and then just rewatch.
Yeah.
I won't lie necessarily.
Yeah.
I just won't say that I've
Unless
seen
she
it.
asks.
That's a lie of omission.
You're a liar.
I can't remember what show it was, but it was a show I wouldn't mind watching twice in a row in the same week.
So, needless to say,
recently,
this
not
show
recently.
is not a binge show right now. It's coming out in sequence. I got to watch it on Sunday.
Like Lotus.
I
Lotus
can't watch it on Sunday.
It was a weekly.
Yeah, we had some catching up. We do Succession's coming back
April.
in April. That'll be here before you know it. So,
Oh wow, we are in January.
Yeah,
I just
dude.
had like an October November moment.
yep, that's right.
Yeah, here we are.
Little bit of NFL stuff today. The Patriots are going to Germany next year. The Patriots are going to Germany. The Chiefs are also playing internationally next year against the Jaguars. Kind of surprising to see a team like Chiefs have to go overseas, but they will. The Jags and the Chiefs are going to play Saturday. They'll play again next year in, I don't even know where the fuck they're playing. Europe somewhere.
I believe
Germany,
the Chiefs are in
too.
Germany.
Germany. So Shad Khan has not yet put out his video of him speaking German to announce that his team's going to Germany.
However,
Robert Kraft has.
Die Patriots kommen nach Deutschland.
Eric Bieniemy is being interviewed in Washington to fill Scott Turner's seat, possibly, which I think is an interesting thing. If you look at like being an offensive coordinator and there are 10 spots open, going to Washington with Ron Rivera there, and we'll talk about Washington, I'm sure, in our Outlook draft. Washington has some pieces. Ron Rivera could be on the hot seat very early next year. Eric Bieniemy has interviewed a number of times, has been kind of this poster child for, some of the shortcomings of the Rooney Rule. He's been a hot name, but he hasn't been hired as a head coach. And maybe, Washington is a little bit more attractive because you might have an opportunity to wear the headset for 10 games
Right.
with that core of talent and the whole thing. So I don't know if Eric Bieniemy is thinking that way, but I think it's an interesting wrinkle if you're a coordinator looking at the head coach who's going to employ you.
who would be the quarterback?
I don't know. Could be anybody. It could be Aaron Rodgers. It could be a Bridge. It could be Sam Howell. It could be, I don't know.
D'Amico Ryans has been interviewing a bunch this week.
Yeah.
If you're a player, do you care at all if your coordinator isn't in the building?
There's nothing you can do about it, but I'll be damned. And for the most part, when I was in St. Louis, there weren't a bunch of coordinators getting interviewed for head coaching jobs. So that was good. Nor were we preparing for the playoffs for the B time to take away, through the interview process. But I do think that they should consider, at the very least, at some point, and I'm sure there's a good reason coaches, or a good reason to them that coaches, that they don't do this, but wait until after the Super Bowl to do this whole process, because you not only have that, but you have Ken Dorsey preparing for an interview, I believe, this weekend. D'Amico Ryan's multiple interviews. Now they have, for what it's worth, a couple day head start on their opponents in Dallas, who's going up there on a short week. But we're told as players, every waking minute should be dedicated to football. Do not waste time. If we were to post a picture doing something on a Friday evening before a playoff game, hell, they skewered Odell Beckham Jr. and a boat full of guys for going to Miami the weekend before the playoffs, when you can do whatever you want as a player. But these coaches, they have the latitude to spend 6-8 hours of their week hanging out with owners from other teams. And it always rubbed me wrong when we were on the road and we'd play, and we have curfews. I wouldn't leave the hotel, especially when I was older, because I didn't want to be on my feet. I wanted to get some rest. I wanted to study, and I did believe that every waking minute was either, hey, carb up, load up for the game, eat something, watch some film, get your legs elevated. We'd sit in the you see those boots that blow up and flush your legs out and shit like that. We'd look for any advantage. And sometimes when meetings ended, a lot of times coaches all went out to dinner with their wives and shit. And that kind of irked me. I'm going to be honest. So I do think, as a player, although there's nothing you can do about it, and you want your coach to get a job, and you understand the circumstance that he's in because of, the fact that, these playoff coaches, if they want to get a first crack at an interview, they have to do it now. I think as a player, you realize that it's not ideal.
If I'm the owner, it's, hey, come interview. They arrive. Mm-hmm. They're still in the playoffs. Psych, this was a test. You failed.
Yep.
We want you locked in.
We want you locked in.
Yeah. You're no longer being considered.
I love that strategy.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
So, there's a little bit of that. And Greg Roman this week, or actually today, sent in a letter of resignation. Eric DaCosta also said that he's excited to start negotiations with Lamar Jackson. The background here is that, of course, Lamar and the Ravens were at the table a year ago, and they came up way short of his target of, A, a fully guaranteed contract, B, being in the echelon of some of these guys that, like Kyler or Deshaun, who got these really big money deals. I think it was $130 million guaranteed that they were talking about with Lamar. So what could happen here with Lamar is the Ravens could slap the non-exclusive franchise tag on him, which is more expensive or less expensive. And then at that point, he can go to the table with other teams. They could slap the exclusive franchise tag on him, which I think is a $40 million tag. It's more expensive. So I think what's going to happen, if I had to predict, is they'll try to appeal to Lamar with the new coordinator, whoever that is, being a more opportune situation for him to maximize his talents. I think also what the Ravens have done in the past is they've decided, hey, we're never going to have enough money to pay a top-end quarterback and a top-end receiver. So the way to get around that is investing in the tight end position. You see they got Mark Andrews, they draft Likely. They believe that they can make up for some of that at the tight end position, at least under Greg Roman in that offense. And the problem is you've got your best players on the field, but the field's not spread out. And when you look at some of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the league, they're spreading the field out. There's more options to throw to. Look at Jalen Hurts. That makes the run game more dynamic at times, the whole thing. And it makes the field less constricted and easier on the quarterback. So I think when I went on Schrager's show this week and said that I think the bridges have been burning there, I think it's a personnel issue over a long period of time and an offensive scheme issue that they've at least tried to address here by maybe forcing Greg Roman into an early retirement or somewhere else. I don't know where Greg Roman is a viable option right now. But what I think they'll do is say, hey, Lamar, we're going to bring somebody in that you might like more. can we get something done? I think he'll say, I want the non-exclusive tag. I'm not playing for you guys. And then at that point, it'll be off to the races. That's just my 2 cents. Obviously, they could bring Lamar back to the table and succeed. Eric DaCosta did say, though, it takes 2 to tango. So I think that
But Harbaugh said there's a 200% chance he'll be back.
Yeah, well,
200%.
200%.
200%
What a
not
hardo.
real.
Yeah.
It's not real.
You want to talk about zombies based on video games?
Yeah.
The scale doesn't go above 100%.
Yeah. So that's the Lamar situation, and I think Greg Roman plays into it. But I think Greg Roman, that era has run its course in Baltimore. Whoever it's going to be at quarterback next year for the Ravens. Josh Boyer is also out in Miami. A lot of zero. Some blitz. They had a bunch of injuries this year. I can't put all of it on Josh Boyer, but he was brought in. That was Flores' guy from New England. So, when you talk about Miami, and we will probably in this 3-year outlook draft, new DC, maybe a different defense, which was really their Achilles heel, along with the injuries at the quarterback position and some of the lackluster play late in the season.
There you go. For Bieniemy, you want to get out from under Andy Reid's shadow. Go prove you can call a defense in Miami. You can do it all. You're the Swiss Army
You'll
knife.
be a DC.
Yeah.
That's genius.
Matt Patricia is living
I like
proof.
your ownership idea better.
Okay.
But this one could play.
Okay.
And one more thing. This is a tweet from Jake Ellenbogen. What?
Huh?
Sean McVay has 4 active coaches that are NFL coaches from his coaching tree. He also has 3 interviewing for head coaching jobs. If all 3 of those were hired, McVay would be responsible for 7 of the 31 remaining head coaching hires.
Golly
that is
day.
insane. The guy's going to year 7. Zach Taylor, Matt LaFleur, Brandon Staley, and Kevin O'Connell, all from his tree. And the guys interviewing are Raheem Morris. Although Raheem Morris has already been a head coach, so I don't know if I'd count him as being part of the Sean McVay tree. Thomas Brown and Ijero Avero.
Sean McVay's a damn Nick Cannon of NFL coaches.
No, he's a damn Warren Jeffs of NFL coaches. Potentially 7 coaches groomed into head coaches for 7 years in the league. Unreal what we are witnessing.
Yeah.
That's from Jake Ellenbogen.
How much do you guys take coaching into account when preparing for this draft that you're doing, like the 3-year outlook draft?
I do. Personally, I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take it into account.
Are there
big
some
time.
teams where like an open job is better than another team that has a certain coach?
Yes, sure. Absolutely. I mean, Tennessee's one that, Tennessee, it doesn't look great on the surface, but you got Mike Vrabel,
Right.
Which I think is a positive. So it'll be interesting to see where we draft those franchises.
I don't have a problem. It's not a problem. It's a habit.
Yeah, no question. We got a habit of bringing Stanford Steve on the show every week.
Right.
It's one of our good habits.
Yep. He's to blame too, to be honest with
He
you.
is. He's culpable.
Reed, how many picks this week? 9?
We're doing double digits. We need multiple.
Now,
There's
there's a
4
tinge
games.
of an accusation of home cooking there. I don't need the games here.
Not anymore. You remember Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
remember Thanksgiving. I remember everybody saying, "Oh, we'll do a holiday." What was it, 4 or 5?
Extravaganza.
Yeah.
was
Remember
5
18,
picks.
18 weeks of this and the guest won, and then we just start doing it over?
Last time I checked, though, I think I'm 2 ahead of Macon. So I didn't even need. I'm 3. I didn't even need Thanksgiving.
You're 3 ahead. I went 0-3
I'm like,
last week, but guess what? And I don't care about this. Okay?
Yeah.
You want to know what I care about?
What do you care about?
Faith, family,
and football.
And
football.
friends.
Steve, what I care about is gambling an irresponsible amount of money on the Wake Forest Demon Deacons
Yeah,
last night
college basketball.
Winner.
because I like the Deeks, and the Deeks come through. And that's real life, and this here is fantasy world.
It's fake life.
There are no stakes, so fuck your little contest. You call it locks. It's guesses. You guys, the damn. I had Cincy 7 in real life. We have 7.5 in this little loser.
Oh, congratulations! You pushed them.
Yeah, push, but it was part of a parla.
Yeah.
How do you say it?
Parlay.
So I got
The point stands. That wouldn't be a point here, though.
Yeah.
That's the value of buying points. Steve, we haven't talked since I bet the farm on fucking Cincy a million ways on Saturday. Well, here's the catch.
Mm-hmm.
The most I was giving was 6 points. So I had some money line, I had some teasers, and I bought to 6. And this is, again, PSA. Swallow your pride, put your nuts on the table, and buy 6. Buy to 6. Buy to 6 if it's 7. Buy to 6.5 if it's 7.
Okay.
If it's 10, buy to 9.5. If you think you're going to cover 3.5, buy to 3. If you're betting the Niners this weekend, buy. There's no shame in it.
I feel like this is going to cost you more in the long run because this is fulfilled a
But you don't
prophecy
care,
of
so-
yours.
I don't care.
No, I care about real life.
Okay.
No, I care about real life too, but I'm in the black or the red or the green. I never say why they don't say in the black.
You're thinking of the catbird seat.
No, I'm
In the
thinking-
black means you're winning.
In the black. I'm in the black, which makes no sense. It should be in the green or in the red. Why did they say that?
I don't see color.
I think it goes to financial spreadsheets where they show things in green or red if you're making
Oh, we
money or
don't do
losing
all
money.
that.
That Maher cat, that's the guy who sent me to the Waffle House for 24 hours.
Yeah,
now,
he did.
now I can't hit an
He's
extra
a
point.
pretty important figure
Yes.
around these parts. Okay, so we'll give the locks out in a couple minutes here. Steve, I want to start with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Johnson is staying in Detroit.
Yeah.
Do you take that at face value, like I just love what we're building here, or did the Carolina interview not go as he thought it might?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it tends to go with the prior notion about what they're building there. I really think, I mean, you could speak on it, Chris, but there's a general sense of everyone likes each other there.
Yes.
And it's an awesome locker room. Like, nothing is better than that. Nothing. And watching the Cardinals in in-season Hard Knocks, good Lord, was that tough to watch. But I will say, you know, fans get overblown with wins and losses and stuff like that. These guys are in it for 18 weeks. They know what they're up against every week. They know what makes them happy. They obviously want to win more games. Everybody does. But everybody can't win. You know? So what's wrong with being in a good situation and liking it, even though it's not in the nicest place in the country, whether it be Detroit? You could be happy there.
It's
Why
so
not?
funny. It's so funny. So few coaches, I feel like, turn down these opportunities. You know, it's almost like compulsive. Like, I got to climb the ladder now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think timing is important. I always say this, and it's easy for me to say, a former player sitting here, and my money's made, and my family's provided for.
Yep.
But if you're an OC and you're staring a job in the face that maybe you don't love, and the grass is green where you are, like I would imagine we'd see this more often than we do. And so it is
Correct.
refreshing if you're Detroit, if you're a player for sure, if you're Jared Goff, sigh of relief. If you're, St. Brown, sigh of relief. If you're Dan Campbell, sigh of relief. And if you're Carolina, I kind of wonder, Gerard Mayo has canceled his interview with the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
He'll stay in New England. D'Amico Ryans has not scheduled an interview with the Panthers. I kind of wonder, maybe this is my conspiracy brain. I'm just willing this to be something that we can talk about on the pod, but like maybe there's something wrong with the Panthers' job. And when you sit down with David Tepper, and maybe it's money, maybe that we talked about how much money they had to pay Matt Rule to get out of Dodge. Maybe it's something like that. But it is a great sign for Detroit. Like, they went through all that this year, the losing streak, a lot of close ball games that didn't go their way. People talking about firing Dan Campbell and shit like that. And it never seemed like that team turned on each other, as evidence of what you just said.
No, they were up against it too. And when you look back at everybody wants to break it down, they lost a 48-45 game to Seattle.
Yeah.
And that ends up being a huge difference.
Yep.
So, no, I mean, listen, there's plenty of good there. We've talked about it. We love the hire when it happened. I think we were in the minority on that.
Yep.
And I pointed out when he got hired, I loved what he did with the staff. I think he brought a lot of former players in that knew what it takes to get this job done. And it ain't easy, man. It is not easy, as you can see.
No.
So it's a hard league to win in, and yeah, it was. I think the right word is refreshing, Chris.
Yeah, and Rand Carthen, former colleague of mine, he was part of the original Earth City crew. Has been hired as the GM of the Tennessee Titans. So really happy for him. Want to share our congratulations. Hopefully we can get him on the show sometime. Big fan of the person.
Is he related to Maurice Carthon?
I don't know if he is.
Maurice Carthon was a bad man.
I don't know if he is. We never talked about that. We used to get our hair cut in the bathroom of the locker room in our city.
His dad's
Speaking
Maurice.
of,
There you go.
What's
Yeah.
going on in the back of that hat?
What's going on? It's a little mullet. What do you mean?
Come on.
What?
Talking about the trophies?
No, he's
No,
talking
that-
he's talking about my Tennessee waterfall. It's just a little
Rat tail hanging out.
It's just a little babbling brook now,
It's
but
going to hold you down on Killy.
by May, no, it doesn't. No, it
Yes, it
won't.
does.
No, you need all the hair you can get. It's
You got to be
cold.
streamlined, dude.
It's cold up on that mountain.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
Steve, you want to know what hat I'm wearing? I'll tell you. I'm wearing a Utah Valley hat. You want to know why?
The Mad Dog.
All they do is cover
Yeah, that's a Mad Dog, baby.
Wolverines.
Don't know them.
Doesn't matter the number.
Okay.
There are all these new schools this year. Queens.
Is that a new school, Utah Valley?
I mean, it's not
No.
new. 1941.
1941, yeah,
you see
yeah,
from the hat.
yeah.
But they got Abilene
But
Christian
I've never heard
tonight.
of the place. When I looked at the
neither.
hat before, I was like,
Me neither.
you vacationed out there.
I know. That's what people think.
Yeah, but it's
School.
actually a school.
It's just a school that covers
It's a
a lot.
conversation starter for a real estate agent.
Yeah.
There you
Oh,
go.
Hey,
Just what you need.
It's not a team I gamble money on. Actually, a buddy gambles a lot of money on Utah Valley, and he got me the hat. That's
Nice.
a true story.
All right, so here's the next NFL question for you, Steve. I found a little bit surprising when I heard the news that they were firing Joe Lombardi, but only because I thought they might fire the head guy. And this is a sign that he's not going anywhere probably. And so do you agree with that decision? I mean, obviously the offense had to change, but just the decision as a whole. And then who do you think could succeed, Lombardi in L.A.?
I look at Frank Reich interviewed for the Cardinals job.
That's my number
I would
one.
love Frank Reich as offense coordinator
Yeah.
and for the Chargers.
Yeah.
I just think about structure. He wasn't able to do it because Wentz was undisciplined, and this year guys, couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
So I think Herbert in the position he is, the age, his window, whatever you want to talk about, Frank Reich is a guy that will bring him structure. I would love that hire if I was Chargers fan.
They could both use structure. Sometimes in the dating world, you're both looking for the same thing. Frank Reich's been dealing with a different quarterback every year.
Yeah.
I mean, he had Andrew Luck in 18. He had to coach Jacoby Brissett up into being serviceable in 2019. Then they go, what would we go? Rivers, and they go to the
Wentz,
playoffs.
Ryan.
Wentz, Ryan. So he's been all over the map. It'd be nice for Frank Reich to get back to what he was doing before, and he really thrived in that role in Philly. He was a great presence around the building, and I feel like from a personality standpoint, him and Justin Herbert would get along great. I mean, you talk about like social media quarterback. Well, Frank Reich is a social media head coach or coordinator if it was opposite day. The guy does not want any credit. He's low key. I think the way that he works specifically with a quarterback is going to work out great if they make this hire. But you can also look at the list of names, and there's some familiar faces in here. Well, there's not faces, and there's a list of names. But Joe Brady.
Frank Reich will also be a great interim in Week 12 when they let go of Staley.
No question. No question. Another reason we were talking about this, like why take an OC job with like a quote unquote lame duck? That was the way Kingston put it. And, honestly, I mean, with Staley being on the hot seat this year, it's like nothing short of going back to the playoffs is going to cut it for them. If you are taking that job and you are a former head coach, this is like a quick way to get back into that game. Not that he's looking at the job, planning for it to not work out, but maybe a little bit of a factor there as well.
Where's Joe Brady been?
He's the
He was
QB
in
coach for the
Carolina.
Bills.
He's in Buffalo now.
And he just stays the same age, huh? Still 33.
Yeah, he's always going to be in his early 30s.
That's wild.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly. I mean, obviously it didn't work out with him and Matt Rule, but he was like the hottest name in football for a second there.
He had a lot of good pieces in Baton Rouge.
Mike LaFleur is a name that's been floated personally. No thanks. I think I wasn't impressed with that offense. I mean, it didn't matter who was playing quarterback. Obviously, the Breece Hall thing mattered. But yeah, there's some names in here. I think
Nathaniel?
the NFL, Nathaniel Hackett, who interviewed with the Jets, or is going to interview with the Jets, which I think is a big like eyeball emoji situation because, I've talked about Aaron Rodgers possibly being an option up there, and when they opened that coordinator position up, I wondered if they were going to try to bring somebody in specifically to lure a quarterback. So, there's some options here, and the NFL needs this hire. Like the NFL needs this hire to get right, because this is one of the most important pieces in the league. In Justin Herbert, like he's a generational talent. He's still in his rookie deal. You want his team to be good. It's the LA market, the whole thing. This hire is a big hire. I mean, they have to nail this.
Chris, if you were a head coach, would Kyle work for you?
Yeah, he'd be the O-line coach for sure. Him and Olin Kreutz.
Oh God.
Because Olin Kreutz is just a badass. I just load the room with badasses. I just was texting with Olin Kreutz yesterday about some D-line drills. Yeah, I love that dude. I don't know him well. I played against him.
I think I was a freshman and he's a senior. Good Lord.
Yeah.
That was a man.
He's a bad dude.
Could they still fire Brandon Staley? Could they still be evaluating the head coach?
The internet fired him Saturday night.
And then Staley and Lombardi get together. Joe's like, threw me under the bus, huh? You weren't even sure about yourself.
Yep, exactly.
That'd be a fun time.
All right, and last thing is Sean Payton. Evidently, there's some mutual interest in the Texans' job situation between Payton. You think he's driving the price up?
Yeah,
but
a lot of highways in Houston, concrete.
Yep.
Bad football.
Yep. Humidity's tough.
Bad organization.
It is a bad organization, but maybe it's the quickest route to like tank and draft. And maybe there's some assurances being made there that you're not going to have to take orders from Nick Caserio.
Correct.
I don't know, but that's interesting. Something to monitor there. But it could be some gamesmanship. Okay, so that's anything around the league that you guys found interesting over the last couple days?
Are you fired up for the Pro Bowl?
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see who's going to carry the egg the furthest. Is that really one of the things?
Sack relay.
Egg toss?
There's a water balloon toss, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, holy shit, that's coming up in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We should live stream that. Honestly, it'd probably do numbers.
Be about as interesting as Dallas, Tampa Bay.
Yeah. That was tough, man. We were doing a live stream for that game. I felt like Al Michaels. Now, Al Michaels isn't doing a volcano at halftime, but I felt like,
I don't know.
I felt like Al Michaels. If Al Michaels did a volcano, Kirk would have to carry the whole broadcast. So yeah, I mean that was tough Monday night, and the Bucks turned out to just be the same old Bucks.
Is there going to be an opening in Tampa?
No, not from what I hear, which is surprising. Have you heard something different? I heard OC's out.
I have not. Just sounds like the guy in the Utah Valley has trying to stir things.
He is.
Well, Todd Bowles is a terrible coach.
He has not impressed me in his second.
The record.
How
about the first one?
Yeah. He has not impressed me in his second stint. Okay.
Best weekend of the year.
Agreed.
Can't top last year. It's going to be tough to top last year. We got the Bills and the
we changed rules because of last year.
And the Chiefs. We had a couple other games I can't recall, but they were all close. What did we have in divisional round last year? Was that San Francisco Dallas?
Yes.
You had San Francisco Dallas where time ran out on Dak. Buffalo Kansas City. You had Tennessee Cincy, which was a tight ball game.
Memories on you guys.
Rams Bucks.
And then Rams Bucks, which was a very good football game.
All four one possessions, 3 of the 4 3-point games.
Yeah. Now we've got some bigger lines this weekend.
Yep.
And
look out.
Yeah, look out. So I guess Macon.
I don't know.
I guess you go first. That's what we do know.
Can I pass?
Do you want to give out the standings one more time?
Steve, you're up on Chris by 1. You've got 33. Chris 32. Macon 29.
Yeah.
Ooh.
How about those Deeks though? All right. Check the balance in the
Why don't
app.
you get yourself into the 30 club?
Now you're talking my language. This is how I was doing the whole first half of the year when I was on skid.
Yeah,
'Cause I was like, hey, the money's coming in.
that's right.
We're just not representing ourselves well on the podcast.
I don't know who to pick,
Yeah.
so I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals catching 5.5 in Buffalo.
That's a good play.
Because I know all the talk is offensive line, but I think they're just as good. They've been more consistent, and Carmen looked fine at left tackle the other night.
That's the big thing to me. Went back and watched, from every snap Carmen took to the end of the game. Okay, he got beat for a sack, but I think he was supposed to have chip help, as Chris pointed out. You can sit him down. He leans a little bit. He'll duck his head. But if you think about the matchups this weekend, the only one that worries me is Rousseau. I mean, I worry about them, picking up the blitz, sorting games, that sort of thing, all the things you worry about three newish guys on an offensive line doing. But I worry more about that right tackle spot than the left tackle spot. Jonah Williams has been bad this year. And as I said before, sometimes the guy that plays is not the best guy. And it could be a marginal difference. But Carmen actually looks like he can hold his own out there. Another thing is Ken Dorsey's interviewing with Carolina this weekend. A little distraction. We were
Like
talking
Kafka
about it.
said, I'm not going to interview this week.
Yeah, hire him. So, Ken Dorsey's interviewing with Carolina. Can Carmen have a solid game? They can definitely slow edge rushers down with the screen game, the run game. I think you might see more of Pirine in there for the pass protection.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
He
has to play more.
Yeah.
Mixon is a liability in pass pro.
Yep.
He's just not going to stick his face in there, or Pirine is going to do that and give you some, but also be a factor in the run game and the pass game. I expect a lot more snaps for Pirine in this game.
I do. I mean, hammer those props, I guess. But, the Bengals defense has to be good in the red zone. They got to take the ball away. That's the big key, and they've been so ball aware all year. I love their back end. We talk about that. Like Tennessee game, Derrick Henry's going in the end zone. They punch the ball out. I mean, that ends up a touchdown. But, New England inside the 5, they force a turnover. Now Baltimore, they force one of the biggest turnovers of the year. And then Von Bell standing up Gus Edwards the play before on the goal line. I mean, like, that's a play that gets overlooked, but there's a guy that comes down and brings it in the run game every single snap. And so, they have a lot of unsung heroes back there. Can they take the ball away? Eli Apple got beat bad on a sluggo this weekend. They've had issues since Awuzie's been out. They don't play as well on the road defensively as they do at home. There's a whole lot of reasons to like the Bills here, but Joe Burrow just makes me feel like anything's possible. And 5.5 points. A
lot of points.
It's a lot of points.
Especially when Josh is turning it over.
Yes.
Feels like you could bank on that too.
But everybody's on the Bengals. No, everybody's on the Bengals. I think it's because of the big line.
Yeah. I think the line is telling you a lot with what people want to do.
How much does it cost to buy to 7?
$140.
Oh, that's worth it.
Okay.
Tell me that's not worth it.
I don't speak that language. I don't speak the.
You don't buy points.
We're looking for value over there.
I speak that language. You can get the Bengals plus 7.5 at -179.
Whoa,
that's steep. That's steep.
One there.
Okay. All right.
Okay. I do think the Bengals defense is the difference in this game.
Good or bad?
You tell me. You're on the Bengals, so I'm guessing good.
Well, yeah, but I saw that sluggo that Chris saw with Eli Apple chasing down.
Yeah.
Whoever the hell.
Chasing ghosts.
They were sitting on that one for all game.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll have to go now.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to take what's the Jags number right now?
8.5.
Yeah.
Wish
it was 9.5.
Yeah.
No, I'm afraid there. I'm going to go under 51 in Kansas City.
Okay.
I'm going to go under 51 in Kansas City. I just feel like the Jags have not – I mean, like, they scored a lot of points in the second half, but the Chargers softened up their coverage. They do pretty well against man coverage, and that's one of the reasons why I think they might be able to hang in this game.
Got good news for you.
What is it?
52.5.
52.5.
You shop around for that number.
I'll take the 52.5. I had seen it at 51. I bet it at 52.5 for sure. I just feel like, they've had problems picking up the blitz. This game could be, I don't know, the defense has played better since they played the first time. Jacksonville's defense has. So I could see this game going, I don't know, let me make up a score here, 27-20, with a backdoor cover. But I'll take the under.
Do you worry about the Jags' stamina at all?
Sure.
Yeah.
I just think they've been up against it week after week and putting themselves in those positions.
Yeah.
I'm not doubting them at all. I just wonder about it because of what they're up against and knowing what they've been through the last couple of weeks.
That's why you take the under and just figure, hey, if they lay an egg offensively. Another thing is, though, sometimes you can be on a team like that just is on a roll, and even though you're getting by the skin of your teeth, like you never have a chance to get out of that mode, and you don't even feel it. You're just in go mode, and I feel like they could ride that momentum right in and keep this thing close.
All right, I'm going to take the over in the Cowboys-49ers game at 46.
Fuck!
I just watching some stuff back on this and seeing what Dallas's corners in the perimeter, I think the Niners do a better job than anybody in the league than running the ball on the perimeter. And that's because you have a monster like Ayuk, you got Debo out there, then you start bringing around Kittle and Usech. Like, that's a real deal. And watching the Cowboys corners, they don't embrace physicality.
That's the thing. Like, can these guys tackle, and can you make them tackle?
And think about those guys. That's what makes the Niners so dangerous. Those guys are all game wreckers with the ball in their hand.
Yep.
Whether it's Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, even Mitchell looks great. So that's the idea of me, Dallas. I no doubt Quinn's going to have a plan for me to confuse Purdy and maybe get the ball away from where he wants to go with it. But I still think the Niners have the ball to get the ball in space, and I think Dak's just going to wing it. I still don't think Pollard gets enough touches. The guy is so much more of a difference maker than Zeke to me. And I think that's a higher scoring game. I think somebody scores 30 in that one.
Yeah,
so
I like it. And Dak exploited zone pretty well last week. I mean, he was really good manipulating the defense with his eyes. You saw that on one of the early touchdowns to Schultz. Can he do that to the Niners zone defense? That's a different task with Warner in the middle. Another thing is you could see some turnovers here.
Yes.
I mean, like Brock Purdy survived the turnover bug, and he's gotten lucky at times. Like, this is the team that takes the ball away, and the Cowboys have struggled against number 2 receivers, like that. So I could see one of these quote unquote role players for San Francisco having a big game. And another thing is, not to throw salt on this, but Dak has only faced 3 top 15 defenses this year. I mean, the teams faced 7. But for 4 of those, it was Cooper Rush. So this is a challenge unlike any other they've seen so far this year. Night game, Levi's Stadium.
Why isn't the line higher? 3.5.
Because Dallas is so fucking trendy right now.
Recency bias. Dallas is the last team people saw. Niners are the first people. They don't even remember the Niner game. That's how people bet.
And it's the Cowboys.
You're correct.
Perfect. Then give me the Niners.
Whoa!
Minus 3.5. Cowboys.
Want to buy it?
Nah.
You should.
Not in this.
Chris just told you should.
Doesn't make a difference.
If you were listening earlier, Chris told you to buy it.
But it matters in the streets.
Cowboys.
But you don't care. You don't care.
Go Deeks. Cowboys have signed Tristan Vizcaino as kicker insurance for Brett Maher.
Yeah, how about that? Like, we're not actually going to cut you, but if you miss kicks this weekend, like, somebody's going to
relegated somebody.
You're going to get South American soccered. Like, there's going to be fans outside your house.
Yeah.
Do you think old kickers just laugh at the new kickers, knowing how much harder extra points are?
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe
I think
so.
they do.
Yeah, maybe so. They're like, yeah, well, that's the one position that's like it's harder these days.
It is.
Hey, I've got a website saying that Dallas has 33% of the bets, but 58% of the money.
Yeah, it's big money.
People are liking the Cowboys.
Big money.
People are liking the Cowboys.
Is that the same website I'm looking at? Yeah. It kind of scares me a little bit.
Scary,
also, a lot of people on the under.
Really
if you look at the big money on the under, kind of scary too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm up. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
C long.
I'll take the
C nice, we used to say.
C nice.
Right.
I'll take the that's a good name. I'll take the I'll take the Giants.
Okay.
I'll take the Giants to keep this thing close. I might buy to
15.
Buy to 15 if I can. I feel like the first game they played is so stuck in people's heads.
Yeah.
Listen, I worry about the Giants' defense. I really do. But if they can run the football, which I think they can, then the key really comes down to protecting. Like protecting Daniel Jones, getting him involved in the run game when you can. Andrew Thomas, and at the other tackle, you've got Evan Neal, who struggled. I mean, he's a guy that I worry about for them. So I don't love this pick. I'm kind of doing a Rob Lowe thing where I'm like, I hope all the teams play well. I just want there to be close games. I don't want to – I want the Eagles to win. I'd love it if they blew them out, but if they don't, I'm a winner here.
Yeah, it feels like we haven't seen that group with Jalen humming in about a month because
it's been a while. It's been a while. And, like they didn't look – Lane's coming back, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know how he's going to look. There could be some rust.
They played Davis Webb in Week 18 and then lost the two before that.
Yep.
Hey, you want to get that to 7.5 player?
It's not 7.5 now?
It's at 8, so you should get it to
8.5.
Exactly.
That's right.
Macon was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what if I'm a little gamesmanship?
Huh.
I'm
going to take the under in the Bengals-Bills game.
Okay.
48.
Yep.
Same as Giants-Eagles.
Correct.
Which, not to fill your homework out for you, I kind of like the under there.
Yeah. I'm going to take the under in the Giants-Eagles game. It's at 48. And, the Giants are always in like a 13-13 ball game in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen might not be 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the right call.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the divisional round.
Yep.
Teams get a little tighter.
I'll take the Jags.
Okay.
I don't trust this, okay? Everything in my brain tells me the Chiefs run away with this thing. But the numbers support fading home favorites in the divisional round. It's just been one of these things. Another thing, when talking about the under, in Kansas City, when Andy and Pat are both out there, and it's usually Pat that's not out there if somebody's not out there, in a line of 7 or more, the under goes 16-8-1. So if the Chiefs are big favorites at home over 25 games with Andy and Pat both on in action, you go 16-8-1 to the under.
14 straight playoff game Kansas City's favored in.
Wow. Crazy.
Mahomes has been favored in every one of his 12 playoff starts.
Crazy.
Doug Peterson 6-0 against the spread, 5-1 straight up as an underdog in the playoffs.
Exactly.
So,
that'd be fun. I can root for the Jags.
Yeah.
I don't want to fade, a team that I'm gonna try to enjoy pulling for at Dirty Nellies.
All right. I'm gonna go against one of you guys and take the Cowboys against Macon and the Niners.
That's a good pick. I like that pick. It's got the feel that it's stinky.
I think they did get a big whale off their back getting that playoff win. I think they'll play a lot more carefree. I forgot and then went back and watched. This was, Chris, you brought it up at the beginning. This was the time running out on Dak. I just think, the Cowboys, I think, will rally around them. I think this is the last go-round for Quinn and Moore in this whole group as a whole. So I think they're going to play pretty inspired. I'm going to die on this hill that Purdy plays average for a whole game.
Yeah.
He was below average in the first half, and Seattle was right there. And then, we start calling this lineman downfield. We could call it on every single play in the NFL. and that takes away a 1st and goal for the Seahawks going in. So I thought that was a huge call because then 2 plays later, the fumble, and that game's done.
Yep.
So Dak hasn't been great with turnovers.
Yep.
But something tells me that this is a field goal game. I will take the 3.5.
All right, so where are you buying points?
There.
You're buying them right there, getting it to 4. Macon.
So we can push. That's good. I will go under Giants-Eagles. Getting that to 48.5.
Okay, cool. So I've got – you like that pick? I got Jags at 8, right?
My first total of the year.
I got Jags at 8, yeah.
8.5.
8.5. We've got I have – who else? I have the 52.5 on the under in Kansas City.
You ain't getting helped on any of these players.
Yeah, the Giants were at 8, so I just gave them the half point because it was the only one that helps you. So you get Giants 8.5.
8.5.
Okay.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
24-16.
So those are the picks, guys.
Matchup.
Matchup. Ooh, matchup.
Easy for me. Can I go first?
Yeah,
Please.
sure.
Lawrence versus Kelsey.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
Can't wait.
Who?
Dexter
I
Lawrence.
was looking at Trevor. I'm looking
Yeah.
at a picture of Trevor, and there's a Kelsey on the other side
Confusing.
there.
Yeah.
That's confusing.
Don't worry
as
about
can
it.
be.
Demon Deacons.
Yeah, go
Deeks.
Deeks. Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
More like the paper tigers.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Easy. You wouldn't say that to Dexter Lawrence's face.
Nah, that guy's awesome. I love that guy. Hey, matchup, you say?
Mm-hmm.
Easy.
Fred Warner and Dak Prescott be a good one.
Who's Eli Apple lining up against?
Yeah, that's the question.
Is it
That's the
Diggs? Is
question.
it Davis?
That's the question.
Could be a
Mackenzie's
problem.
back, too.
Yeah.
Cole Beasley's in the mix.
Yep.
Eli Apple holding up in that game.
Yep. Okay, I'll go back to the right tackle, Adeniji and Rousseau. I think a lot is going to hinge, and luckily for Joe, it's on his ball hand side. That's the tough matchup being on his vision side, but that's still one that a lot hinges on that.
All right. You guys have a great week and weekend. Enjoy everything. Tell everybody at Dirty Nelly's I said hi.
I will.
Enjoy yourself, man.
Yeah. Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame. But I was on Schrager's pod. We talked about, like the Steelers and Aaron Donald, and he had mentioned something about, there was speculation he was retiring. And I basically was like, he's not retiring. He's playing. And that social was just floating. And Aaron actually replied under it. He's like, yeah, tell him, CeeLo, I'm playing. The whole thing. So do I get a scoop?
You should, yeah.
I think I get a scoop on like the most important player defensively in the entire league and the possibly imminent retirement. I got it, guys.
Nice.
Quote Chris Long from Greenlight Pod. Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter.
Maybe that'll get you a little trust among the NFL players amongst the locker room.
Exactly.
Like, I'll talk to Chris.
Clout. Yeah, we need to chase some clout. So that was good. I didn't know if you saw that. I'm a newsbreaker.
I didn't see it.
Aaron Donald will be back this year.
2 newsbreakers.
Well, 2
Aaron
newsbreakers
Donald,
for sure, and Kyle Long. And then another thing was, I don't know if Aaron watched the entire social because half of it was about him possibly being traded. So then it turned into a thing where Matthew Judon was responding underneath, like, come up here. And then, like, Pittsburgh people were like, yeah, come up here.
You're stirring shit. That's great.
Stirring some shit.
Yeah.
But if Aaron didn't watch the whole social, that's on him.
You're trading information and stirring shit.
That's what we're doing.
That's awesome.
All right, so now we're going to draft. Get your popcorn ready. Get a couple bags because we're going to draft like the entire league. Macon's idea was 3-year outlooks on non-playoff teams or non-divisional round teams. So anybody who has a pulse and isn't one of 8 teams, we are going to be able to draft that team based upon a 3-year outlook.
With Dave Dameshek. Hey, Dave, I have a gambling problem. In that.
What's that?
Well, I gamble too much, and then I lose a lot. and I'll jump on like minus 500 live money lines in college hoops, and then the damn team that's up 6 with 4 to go will lose the game.
That's right.
It's all good.
That sounds like a real problem. What you need to do is don't stop gambling, but make better decisions about where your money's going. And I think that'll help things.
Yep.
Dramatically,
I've been talking
really.
it through with a few people, and that seems to be the consensus. Definitely don't stop.
Definitely not a situation where a lot of people are wanting to loan him money, though, either.
I have been asking Dave. In fact, if you send me $5,000 today, Cash App, I prefer Cash App.
We prefer Cash App.
I will send you $5,200 tomorrow.
But are you being sincere that this is just about gambling? Because I once had a pal who called me at 2:00 in the morning, and he had this rambling. He was calling me from a payphone in Hollywood, and he said, I can't explain the full details, but can I borrow $400? And I'm like, you got to, what the hell? It's 2:00 in the morning. And he's like, well, I got into a poker game and it didn't go my way. And these guys are like, he traded on the fact that I'm a naive dip. And because he's like, I got it. And I'm like, he knows I'm prone to think that movies are real life.
Yes.
And he's like, they're going to hurt me. And I'm like, I don't want you to get your kneecaps broken. Anyway, picked him up. Took him to the bank machine, took out $400, gave it to him, and I had to drop him off in a Burger King parking lot and just left him. He's like, you can't be here for this. You shouldn't be here. It could be bad. And I'm like, oh my God, who are these bad dudes, these mobsters after you? Turned out he had a crack problem. When your excuse is, I lost in high stakes poker, and that's the good news to cover up the uglier truth, then you're probably in a bad way.
I don't think Make has a crack problem, and I don't think WinBet's going to break your kneecaps.
No, I have proof here in the old WinBet app of the losses, and I'm coming to you from a podcast studio in the middle of Virginia. It's not a payphone in Hollywood, so much more credible situation, and but just as dire. But there's light at the end of the tunnel because North Carolina A&T is catching 6.5 at home.
We've
tonight.
done a show that's almost entirely about your gambling debt. Okay.
And
this is where it turns.
Yeah, that's right, Chris Long. Why do you tell him you can't? No offense, but you can't. You're too close to this Eagles Gents game to have any good sense.
Well, I did bet the Giants.
You can read into the other ones.
I gave out the Giants. I gave out the Giants just a few minutes ago with Steve. That what is it at 8? Is it 8? I'd like it if it were at 9. But
I'm glad it went up to 8 because that's what I've been waiting for all week. That's late breaking to me because I've seen it at 7.5 steadily, and I kept saying if I could just get it up to 8.5, it would be a little sweeter. Yeah. But you know what? I think I'm along with a lot of people on this one.
If you
Bungles
could be
-5, plus 5.5. That's the play this week. I think.
Bengals, even though it seems like America's on it due to the big line, but I think we're both on the Bengals.
Yep.
I'm taking them on the money line.
That's a smart play. Dave, if you could go and attend any of these divisional games, which one would you do in person?
That's a nice question.
Ooh la la! That is a fun one. I you know what? I'm tempted as somebody who loves the history. The lore of, and it's generations long, and I love making lists of things that no one on the planet Earth besides me cares about. But I love talking about like the best rivalries in sports that are outside the division.
Yep.
USC Notre Dame is a good one. Steelers Cowboys is a good one. Lakers Celtics, but Niners Cowboys is also on the short list. This is dandy because it's transcended the generations. It goes back to Roger Staubach versus John Brody and Aikman and Aikman and Young and all of that. So I would say that one.
But Levi's has no juice.
But that's exactly right. Santa Clara. Why are they even calling themselves San Francisco at this point? It's an hour away from San Francisco.
Yeah, Make has an issue with this.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the Bills, but like I just said, I think it's going to be sad when people are walking out of that stadium. So I don't know if I want to be a part
I
of
know.
that.
Should we feel like guilty about we asked the question earlier, should we be guilty for betting the Bengals? Because it's like Bills, with everything they've been through this year, and they're the Bills, for God's sakes.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, the Bungles don't exactly have a proud and rich history of
you're right,
bringing joy to their fans. So
you're right.
that might offset it. And I keep saying it too. I don't know if this makes me a bad guy or whatever, but I'm hearing from some residents of Mount Pius that it's wrong to say this, but the Bungles got screwed in this tournament.
Yes.
I feel like why the Chiefs, by virtue of doing nothing, are just given the 1 seed. And the Bills are like, well, we forfeited the game. Well, we didn't forfeit, but we no contested that game. So, okay, so they get the 1 seed. So they get kissed into the 1 seed, which is obviously a major advantage. The Bills get a home game now, and it's become reality. They catch the Bengals in Buffalo. What the hell? I think it ultimately is good because Joe Burrow gives me some of that, the high-end, all-time great vibes of Michael Jordan and Tom Brady and those guys who know how to put a chip on their shoulder, whether it should be there or not. I bet you he's able to figure out quietly, and the rest of that locker room can figure out, like, we got screwed here, and now let's go give them what for as a result.
Well, they went on the road all last year.
Too.
They went on the road all last year to get to the Super Bowl. They feel like this is something that they're good at. You could definitely you feel motivated by how it's all gone down. We also talked to Mitch Morse earlier this week, who I think, and of course he's looking at it from a Bills perspective when I asked him about the neutral site possibility at Kansas City, even though they beat KC and they got the opportunity taken away from them to beat the Bengals, although that game didn't look like it was going their way. Mitch was like, listen, when we all got together and said this is bigger than football, we had to mean it. Like wherever the chips fell, we kind of had to mean it. And so it's the same thing for them and in the way they feel, maybe not as feeling as unfairly treated as the Bengals might, but it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I don't know that it's something that's bad enough to where people, if the Bills go on to win the Super Bowl, will say, well, that was an asterisk type thing. But
yeah,
the ball
you're right.
Definitely
That's true.
The ball bounced their way for sure. In this
Yeah,
scenario.
I just think they got like the Bungles for doing nothing wrong got the short end of the stick, and then you see this week that the league says, yeah, we did consider making Bengals and Bills a neutral site game. That's what it should have been, or it should have been like the 1982 Super Bowl tournament that you guys weren't alive for, but they had 8 teams because it was a strike year, and so I think there were only 9 games or whatever played, so they just put extra teams in. Who would have complained about that? That would have been fine, too.
Yep.
Certainly not me.
Yep.
It would have been Pittsburgh Steelers and Arrowhead.
Yep.
Wait, that didn't go well last year.
It
so
did
maybe
not
that
go
wouldn't
well
have been
last
great.
year, and I bet the Steelers that game. I just remembered
Well,
that.
that wasn't smart.
Yeah,
That
no, it wasn't. And I'll probably make the same mistake again this weekend betting the Jags. So I just I don't know, man. The Steelers are one of these teams that the future's bright. How bright is is Pittsburgh's future? I don't know. We'll find out in this draft. Macon had this genius idea to draft 30 teams.
It's hard for anybody to articulate. Not me so much. It is a genius idea. Thanks. It's a powerful idea. There are 8 teams currently playing, 24 not.
Yes.
From that field of 24, we each pick 5. The 5 with the brightest 3-year horizons.
The way you interpret it, because we might pick a team that doesn't have a quarterback right now. We might pick a team that doesn't have a coach right now. And this is obviously not binding, and no one will remember it.
Nope.
But if we get this thing right, all this,
the winner just gets $75,000.
Pretty much.
That would help.
Then otherwise, you're bound by nothing here.
Yep, that would help. Now, the 3-year part's interesting to me because 3 years ago, the 2019 NFL season, the Cincinnati Bengals were 2-14.
They were awful.
Now we're talking about a perennial playoff team.
The Lions were bad. They're looking pretty good.
The Lions were 3-12-1.
Yep, they're looking like they're trending up.
The Chargers were 5-11.
Yeah,
everybody's got. I mean,
9 and 8.
It's crazy that the amnesia persists year after year with like, you think the Lions are going to be good this year? Like, yeah, how many more examples does Football America need before you accept the fact that teams make big turnarounds in the NFL in the 21st century? It's like such old news, and yet people say, you think the Texans might be good in a year or two? Like, yeah, they get the right quarterback in the draft. Yeah, of course.
You never freaking know.
3 years ago, Houston Texans winners of the AFC South at 10-6.
Right.
Saints were 13-3.
Right.
So yeah, this is gonna be dynamite.
Yep, this
To
is
your
great.
point,
Right.
tape will be
How
live.
are we gonna pick the who gets to pick first?
That's a great question. I had a colleague, Dave. I'm a real estate agent by trade,
I know what you do.
And,
you think
everybody
you're a
knows.
stranger to me,
Yeah.
friend?
and
Come on.
I have a colleague. She was getting all jacked up about Mega Millions. Said she had lost the week prior,
Right.
but was gonna jump back in the week we were
Mega
speaking.
Millions competition.
And I said, hey, redacted, pick a number between 1 and 10. I got a number between 1 and 10. Tell me what it is. Now, she says 6. My number was 4. I said, there you go. That was 1 and 10. You would have lost. The message was not received. She went right back to the 7-Eleven to participate in Mega Millions. Lost 2 times.
So how are we gonna do this?
No, that's a great question. Now, I know I didn't.
If you're
answer
picking
your,
a number from 1 to 10, if somebody else says 6, why would you have taken 4?
Well, no. I had 4 in my head. I had 4 in my head. I didn't articulate this well. I had 4. It might have even been behind my back. And then she said 6, and I said, no, you're not good at this.
But 5 is the right answer. If somebody takes 6, then your answer has to be 5. And if you get to go first, your answer has to be 5 because you want to be right in the middle.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
How about
And then if they have to shade you to one side or the other, it's like a choice route, right? Chris Long, let's talk football.
A choice
Let's
route.
use football terms.
A choice
That's
route.
right.
I'm
not-
do you know what I'm ordering right now on Grubhub to be delivered ahead of time so I don't forget tonight?
Oh, is it dessert? I've been talking about
taro
dessert.
slush.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Have you ever had a taro slush, Dave?
No, I don't like this taro. I'm not a part of it.
Okay.
Tastes
I'm
like
not in on it.
buttered
On Taro
popcorn.
Island. Okay.
Hey,
I'll try it though. I'm open to it.
You should try it. It's good.
See if the Grubhub will send one over to Encino, California.
Also,
Then
how
I'm all
about
in,
Eddie
folks.
Spaghetti getting married or engaged?
Ah, that's
There's a
so
long
nice.
way to
Yes.
go.
What you know? What this is a great question to bring to you. Eddie Spaghetti, yes, he got down on one knee, and we're all celebrating for him. But his wife, who knew that the Giants were going to make the divisional round a couple months ago, but she now has a birthday party scheduled on Saturday night, right when the Gents and Eagles are going to be getting it on. Now, I counseled him. Spoiler alert. She did graciously push the entire party back by a couple of hours to accommodate him.
Yeah, that's not
But I
good.
said in advance, like, you gotta just lay the law down here. I mean,
Yeah.
you're in success. We're talking about decades.
Macon's not a big first 15 guy. His first drive, so to speak, has been less aggressive than, say, my first 15 in marriage. My first 15 was like, hey, I'm going to Bonnaroo. I watch football on Sundays. There's certain things I don't do. There's certain things I do.
I've been married for 2 years. I have 2 kids.
Yeah.
We're talking about less aggressive. It doesn't get more aggressive than that.
No, I mean, and what Dave and I are talking about is setting a tone akin
Right.
to the run game, like the constant pressure of your autonomy and the things that are important to you.
I'm quick kicking on 3rd down.
Yeah, you are.
It's always 3rd and long, and I'm sacrificing possession.
It's also how he
Yeah.
makes his babies too.
Quick kicking.
Or was
No,
it-
listen.
I'm like Doug
the-
Peterson. It's 4th and 7. We're in our own territory. My wife's like, "What are we doing?" My wife's like Warren Sharp. She's just complaining about my decision making.
Yeah.
You're not Chris Long and Dave Dameshek are two men.
Yeah.
We're not guys. We're
Yeah,
men.
men.
And we don't play not to lose the game of life.
Yeah,
We
we're
play
trying to
it
win
to
it.
win it.
We're trying to win
Come
it.
on, Macon.
I like to stay
But I know.
home.
Listen, your reputation precedes you, Macon. I'm just jiving. Everybody knows you're a vigorous lovemaker.
Thank you.
That's the word I'm
Or as he
like. What's
would put
Macon
it,
really
strong
like
dick
aside
game.
from the vigorous lovemaking? Like, yeah, beyond that, the man. I mean,
Yeah. I think we can move on to draft order at this.
Well,
this
as
stage.
soon as you figure out how we're gonna pick the order of Reed, you got it. You want to?
I got it.
Perfect.
Dave, pick a number from 1 to 3.
2.
Chris, pick a number
3.
1 to 3. Macon 1 to 3. I guess it's 1.
Yep.
So Macon, your first. Dave, your second. Chris,
Damn,
your
you
third.
put it. You just what? You just ordered it 1, 2, 3.
I really wanted there to be a zag in there because I don't want to go 1.
That's some
I
BS.
outsmarted myself, but in Rochambeau, is there a standard? I mean, I don't want you to give away all your tricks for future head-to-heads between you guys, but is there a preferred option that you
Is
guys go with in
Rochambeau Jewish rock, paper, scissors?
that? Is it Jewish? I don't know about that.
Well,
Ask George Santos if you want to know what goes on in the Jewish
What's
community.
going on with Rochambeau? Isn't it rock, paper, scissors?
I always thought it was rock, paper, scissors too, but I accept it. I thought that it was more universally known as Rochambeau.
Maybe you
but I don't
guys have
care
a
for
blind spot.
You guys.
Yeah.
I've always known it as
Now are
rock,
you
paper,
guys and me?
scissors.
Only
What
thing
is
I mean,
Rochambeau?
I don't know what that even means. All I know, I mean, the most Jewish thing about me is that I have my flesh yarmulke. You know, that's
Rochambeau.
Used mainly in the western United
It's a synonym
States.
of rock, paper, scissors.
It's a reference to Count Rochambeau, who, according to widespread legend, played the game during the American Revolutionary War.
I don't think it's the Jewish rock, paper, scissors.
No.
All
Wait,
right.
this is a Revolutionary War general?
Yeah.
General Rochambeau?
Count Rochambeau.
Count.
Oh my God, that is a I was ready to declare an early end to the competition in 2023 for best new name. I don't know if you guys noticed it when Pitt was taking care of the Cavs a couple of weeks ago. But Pitt has a center, 7 foot tall, 82-pound guy named Federico.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's sick. And you know what?
Federico.
We've rebounded. We're back.
glad
We're
for
back.
you.
Yeah, we.
Good pun. Yeah, 4 in a row. Dave.
Okay, you got the first pick,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. We're getting
this is-
sidetracked. Macon.
as we do, but you know, this is technically a Macon's gambling woes pod, so we'll see if we can fit this in.
You're not going to like my pick. Candidly, I don't like my pick. I wish I was at 3. Is this a snake draft?
Yes.
It is a snake draft. Okay. Okay. With the first overall pick, I'm going to take the LA Chargers. And you say, why are you doing that?
I like the pick. They were on my big board.
Okay, generational talent. Everybody loves to say it. Generational talent at quarterback. Had they beaten the Jags on Saturday night, they're in Arrowhead. What are they? 4-point dogs?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be a
that's
big
about right.
number. And
And they might beat them.
they might beat them. They might be playing to go to the
Yeah,
Super
but there's
Bowl.
a reason that they're not there, and it's Brandon Staley.
And I'm shocked that
And-
he's still employed.
And he's still employed. And so there's a question mark at the coordinator position, which could be a really good thing. You're in the red, 8-8 on cap. I mean, you're over the cap. You got picks 22 and 55. The only good thing is they could go 9-8 again and be better off than they were this year, but in the same place, and make some improvements to the roster, and then they could fire Brandon Staley. Like, that's the part of the 3-year outlook to me that's good, is you have that quarterback on a rookie deal. It's not going to last much longer. But if a change is coming, it's coming soon and with an intact football team, because they're just not performing.
And you probably
their-
extend Herbert now as soon as possible, but that doesn't necessarily shrink the window. I mean, other teams pay quarterbacks to keep winning.
Yep.
I do wish it was Sean Payton at the helm.
They are in the AFC West.
There will be a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, okay, good pick.
But hey, Dave
like that.
Dameshek. Thank you. Can you talk to me about Week 18? You're Brandon Staley. Would you have?
Here we go.
Would you have played your Charger starters?
Oh.
You know, I felt like, yes, it's set up to it was a dangerous game Brandon Staley was playing there. But I also, I mean, how many years do you hear about, like, they took their foot off the gas and they knew they were in good shape and they were in, and I do think, I'll defer to you two who played in the NFL, but doesn't the rhetoric go that it's hard to turn it on and off again in the NFL, and that
It
kind
is.
of would
It is.
indicate
And this debate is raged on. Macon was tickled to death when my dad threw shade at Brandon Staley for playing the guys last week. You know, it's obviously an easy take to put out there that Mike Williams,
Broke
it's on
his
Brandon.
back.
He broke his back. He could have broke his back any game during the season. He could have broke his back power cleaning in the weight room. Listen, the numbers back it up. It's a small sample size, but teams that don't rest their starters to some degree perform better in the playoffs than teams that do and have that bye. I've been on teams with byes. I do think in the first half they came out, and although I was arguing with Big Cat about this the other day, I was like, because he's on the anti Brandon Staley playing people. Train. He was like, the offense didn't look that good. I was like, the offense looked good in the first half. And he's like, it was all the turnovers. I mean, like, I'm not an EPA guy, but I'm pretty sure that offense was moving the ball just fine when they had the opportunities in the first half. And that, to me, you could credit the defensive performance. You could credit the offensive performance in the first half to not being rusty. Okay, and Mike Williams is not the reason you lost that football game.
But then DeAndre Carter's playing instead of Mike Williams.
Yep.
And then he goes out, and it's Michael Bandy who's never taken a handoff.
Everybody's on the Michael Bandy train. Okay, well, that's on coaching. That's on play calling. It's not on, damn, the guys were out there too long. Like, people step up all the time in the playoffs. I don't know what their EPA offensively in the first half was, Reed. I don't know if you can crunch that in your computer brain.
I've gotten us into the
I'm
weeds.
I'm sort of agnostic about Brandon Staley's ongoing employment. It's funny, though, because, boy, people loved him good for the first, 12 games of his head coaching career.
Oh, they did. The internet, he was one of the favorites online.
Oh, he was the must-have item, and every coach had to become exactly like Brandon Staley in that moment. I mean, the troubling thing is, always, though, I defer to the players, and I don't know. Hey, does that go on, Chris Long? Does the PR guy, does the GM or otherwise say, hey, it wouldn't be a bad thing if you gave some public support to the head coach here?
No,
right now.
That doesn't really happen. No.
People accuse players of that was organized, that the Broncos all stepped up and said something about Russell Wilson. I don't know. No. I find that hard to believe that you would say to grown men, go say that even though you may not mean it.
No, I think in the Broncos case that was sincere. I also think there's a big variability in how players feel about a specific coach. So you're always going to have one or two company guys that are going to speak out. And, you're going to have some people who don't like the coach as much because of some personal slight. And maybe some guys that know the coach isn't that great a coach, but their situation's pretty good. Their quotes might sound different. So, Brandon Staley, to me, has just been compulsively fearless at times. And by that, I mean, he doesn't know when not to be. It's fearlessness. There's a thin line between fearlessness and just recklessness for the sake of adhering to your mantras that are on the wall. And, that's kind of the vibe I get from Brandon Staley sometimes. We are who we are, no matter what. In the second half of the game, we're going to throw the football. We're not going to manage the clock. But that aggressiveness wasn't there when you had to play more aggressive coverage and you were playing more off coverage and they were eating up chunks of yardage, or late in the game on 4th and 3, you're like, I will kick with Dicker the kicker instead of going for it. And, I've talked about this. The Jags were the more fearless team, because they have the more fearless head coach. Even though he doesn't have as many mantras, he doesn't speak the way that Brandon Staley does at the podium, that everybody fell in love with him his first press conference. The result is different. Okay.
I think it's crazy, though, that they make all the changes that they made. And, ultimately, if Justin Herbert on down are we love Staley and we want him to stick around, I think that's hard to work around. I think that's probably the most relevant thing in trying to evaluate, do we keep this guy or not? But man, the Chargers are loaded up on defense,
and they got to fix the run.
They had Mac and Bosa back there, and they had James and Kenneth Murray, and that they got whipped like that. Staley's supposed to be a defensive whiz. That is what would be troubling me for these next 6 or 8 months.
That's why I'm surprised he's still there. Okay, Dave, you're up with pick 2.
All right, there's some other ways I can go, but I'll cut to the chase. Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you want me to do? Of course. What am I going to do? Not take the Steelers in a draft of teams that I have optimism for over the next 3 years or so. They have the most important thing. Maybe it's overly simplistic at this point with the cap going up to accommodate franchise QBs a little bit over the last 5 or 10 years, but still, the sweet spot in the 21st century is having what you feel like is the real deal at the most important position, but he's still on his rookie deal. That's what the Steelers have. They were surprisingly better than what I think most people figured their offensive line was going to be. George Pickens is a stud. You can see that. Deontay Johnson, for all the hand-wringing about some of his drops, is open all the time. Freiermuth, I could just tick off names here, but the defense is... The only troubling thing is what I just said about Brandon Staley. The premise, I would think, with the Chargers, although Justin Herbert warps it a little bit, is man, we should just dominate teams with our defense. So the same thing is true with the Steelers. But there are limits to it. You know the Jenga theory. If you remove the wrong piece, the whole thing implodes. T.J. Watt, I think, proved himself to be, one of the Jenga pieces of the NFL this year. And I think people lost sight of that or got amnesia okay, but one of the 5 best non-QBs in the league was hurt and wasn't all the way right till the very end of the season. That's going to impact your wins and losses. I think things set up great. I get to talk about cynicism. People on the banks of the Three Rivers, dude, they're like, they went 5. They talk like the team went 4-13 or something.
Yeah.
It really is weird.
Yeah.
How people are so obsessive, or like they only pay attention to one football team, and the other side are just those nameless gray faces and that sort of logic. But what are you looking at that you think that 9-8, 7-2 finish isn't reason for boundless optimism, except that they happen to be in a division with the Bengals, who, if you opened it up to if we could take any of the 32 teams, I might take the Bengals number 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think things set up, and I also don't think, and I defer to you two NFLers once again on this, but I don't think it's bad that in a league of sameness, of copycats, and everybody running essentially something fairly close to the same thing, that if Tomlin wants to try and knuckleball you week after week and dominate you defensively and win with that style, I don't think that's bad. In fact, I think there is a competitive advantage to that, because you have to prepare differently for a game against the Steelers than you do against any of your other foes on the schedule. True or false?
I think it's true for the most part, and then you get into this part of the season, and then you see like the Bills or the Chiefs or somebody who can get points in bunches, and then you can't play the game on your terms. But if not for Matt Canada, I was going to say, like, hey, this 3-year outlook. On the other hand, there's Matt Canada, who seems to be staying on in Pittsburgh. Like, you do have elite at almost every position. If you forecast it over the next couple of years, as far as having a young core, I don't think there's a much better young core in the league outside of Najee, Freiermuth, Pickens. Like, if you took a halfback, a tight end, a wide receiver,
your guy Jalen Warren,
Jalen Warren, number 30.
He's dynamite too, and Minka Fitzpatrick is, what is he, 24, 25?
Yep.
TJ Watt's still under 30. Things set up nicely, and Andy Weidel, and I think the secret to the Eagles is not a secret.
Nope.
That the reason they've stayed pretty relevant around the playoffs for the last decade is they always just load up on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I think that's what he's going to do now, and that will benefit, especially the way Tomlin wants to win these games. I think they're just going to, brawn it up. Get some guys that like to lift weights in their free time, like your brother Kyle.
Yeah,
I talked to him once. Do you know that? He likes to lift weights.
So. Well, he didn't for much of his career. He just would go out there and just throw people around. Now he's a big weightlifter. He was Mr. Olympia. So you got picked 17 and 33. Who do you think you take at 17? Is there a position that you guys are looking at that you're like, we got to address that right now?
Dude, I'm like with the Emperor Chaz Knoll. I go with best player available.
Best player
I don't
available.
go with none of this. We got to fit.
BPA.
We got to fit this.
It's the only BPA I like.
A lot of dudes in that defensive secondary available middle, late first.
Yep. Which would be a good
I would love for him
to,
to. I mean, if you could get, it's like, I like when people talk about, what we need, Dave? We need a shutdown corner. Like, yeah, I need clips to go viral.
Yeah. No, we got to.
I like when people announce a shutdown corner. We should get one of those. Yeah, I mean, we could draft a cornerback who's hopefully effective enough that he can take away the number one option. But yes, I get the point. If there's a guy like that, I would love for that. You drop that into that defense, it really has a chance to be special next year.
Well, so it's interesting. I've been talking about LA, who probably doesn't make this list, in the Rams, and I had speculated, much to the chagrin of some of our LA fans who listen, that maybe the Rams are in kind of a reset-y kind of mode, and maybe an Aaron Donald, a Jalen Ramsey might be available. I know that the Steelers don't like throwing around draft capital or doing it some other way, but like I had talked about, maybe Aaron, if he's not interested in going to like a quote-unquote contender, and I'm not saying that the Steelers aren't, but like there's a nostalgic angle there. You talked about a corner. Maybe they'd be in the market for Jalen Ramsey if there's a fire sale in LA. I think talking about this stuff is fun because it feels like a big piece or two away in Pittsburgh. I think they have a lot of the pieces lined up. They could add another dynamic playmaker or two on defense, especially in the secondary, as you mentioned. And the defense is aging but elite. Okay, like it's definitely like over the next 3 years, you talk about this window, you have to capitalize right now if you want this defense to look the same, because you mentioned TJ Watt, who's not old yet, but you look up in 3 years and you just don't know where people are physically. Cameron Hayward, I don't know how much longer he wants to play.
He's the one. I mean, his contemporaries, J.J. Watt retires, Von Miller's out with the knee injury. I mean, that's his draft class. So, yeah, he doesn't have as dominant as he is in second halves of every season in the last, 6 years. He turns it on and dominates giant men. But, yes, that's why I say Ogunjobi. And then we got to steal Hargrave from the Eagles. We got to steal him back from you guys. I would be fine with moves like that. Yeah, I hear you. I'm Aaron Donald. Your guy Jeff Schwartz though said there's no way the Rams would ever deal him away.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if that's a no way situation. If the plan lays out over the next year and they're tanking for Caleb Williams, I know that for Rams fans it's hard to imagine. But did you look at your team this year? I mean, I know there were injuries. But you really think Matt Stafford feels great right now? I mean, I don't know where he is physically, and if he's not there, what are you doing? Are you going to give up more draft capital? You can find a first in the couch cushions to go send, for a quarterback. I don't know. I think sometimes it's okay. You won your Super Bowl. Nobody's saying Les isn't doing a great job or that Sean McVay's not a great coach or you don't have good players. But maybe it's time to let somebody like Aaron Donald, who probably doesn't want to go through a rebuild at this age, explore other options. It could be
Aaron
the only
Donald's
way you
from Penn Hills.
Yep.
He still lives in Penn Hills, as far as I know, Pittsburgh.
Yep.
I could see maybe that there would be some appeal to Donald with doing something like that. But I will say this about the Rams. Listen, that is the worst Super Bowl defense in the history of the Super Bowl.
It's bad.
I get the injuries and everything else, but it ain't good when the offseason begins with the head coach going I don't know if I'm going to come back.
Yeah.
I might go to the booth. And your best player, Aaron Donald, saying the same thing. That set things up for bad times. And all right, fine. So you're the Florida Marlins. You mortgaged your future to win it now. You did, to make a big blip in L.A., but I think it's weird that it feels like, and I'm here in L.A., it really did not make much of a dent in the local
because they don't care
sports
so
scene.
much about football there. I'll tell you some
But I think
they do care about
it feels
football.
like a meaningless Super Bowl now, kind of in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah, to the Rams. No, I mean it's very significant for all involved professionally. But in LA, they've had spoils of riches for years in sports culture, and it usually starts with basketball and baseball.
Yeah, but it's good. But I mean, when you look, I can go through, Super Bowl 15 and what that meant to the Raiders as a wild card, and the Eagles had their special year and all that. I think that Super Bowl last year is going to be when you're ticking through the generations, you're who played in that one? I don't remember. Who was that?
Yep.
The Rams? Oh, that was weird.
Yep.
I think it'll be one that you do not I don't think songs are going to be written. I don't think Steve Sable from on high is wished he could have been around to script out the magical Super Bowl that we saw there.
Yeah. Now, if this team wins the Super Bowl, people are going to riot. You know who I'm going to pick?
I do.
Yeah, Detroit Lions.
Yep.
Okay, and I know this is I know it's a trendy pick, but I've been on the Lions, so I don't feel weird about it. Great young O-line. They got weapons. They got young weapons. A big swing guy is going to be Jameson Williams. Is he going to be more than a guy that you can get the ball to on a busted coverage? Is he going to be a big part of that offense? You got St. Brown. You got Swift. You have Williams. The cap space is good, 27.7. Ben Johnson is another reason for me. It either says that the Carolina interviews are disastrous or that there really is something real that they're building here. And one of the biggest reasons I think their outlook is good is this fucking division could be like a vacant lot here soon. You got the Vikings to contend with, but they got to fire a DC here soon, I figure, and there's going to be a reset there. You owe Kirk a bunch of money this year. After that, it's kind of a question mark. So I really like the Lions. third in draft capital this year. They got picked 6 and 18. We've talked about they could draft a quarterback to develop. They could draft Michael Mayer. They could work on the defense with an interior defensive lineman. You know, they got a lot out of Aiden Hutchinson this year. I thought that was great. You know, they got a bunch out of the other edge rusher who kind of came on out of nowhere. He was almost as productive as Aiden was. Was Houston, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. And, you know, like I said, the division could be wide open. So I really do like Detroit. The big question for me is, can Detroit attract free agents? You know, that was an interesting concern.
Seems appealing now. That I think the concern is, let's see how ravaged the coaching staff is, because it does feel like Dan Campbell is a tone guy.
Yep.
Not although I don't know, maybe he is a good exit or you know, a good technical coach.
I think people might underrate that a little bit. I mean, talking about Dan Campbell, I mean, just look at who he learned ball from. I mean, Sean Payton is just such a fucking genius. You know, you're talking about a former player and a guy who had to make his money outsmarting people. Yeah, he's a big brutish tight end, but like, he wasn't incredibly talented. He's got a special teams background. So I do think sometimes that gets a little bit underrated, but you're right. And also, like, look at Dan Campbell and his decision-making. Firing Aubrey Pleasant late in the year, their defense changed. And, like, he knew the firing that he had to make. He had the balls to do it. I know he cares a great deal about his coaches. He did it, and they took off from there. So I trust in Dan. I trust.
This will be like the real NFL draft. First round takes a while.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
I can't wait here because I know I would pay. I'd be willing to bet that he's going to take one or two teams, and that's fine by me because I'll just take whichever one he doesn't.
Okay, so I think I'm going to go with, and I could be forgetting somebody. This sucks.
Failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
Yeah, okay. Well, then give me the commies.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, give me the commies.
Off the board.
Now there's a dark cloud over this organization, and the ownership is the reason for the season. But that could change. That could change soon. The defense is in good shape. I think they got to pay Deron Payne. They have really good weapons, young weapons offensively. Robinson had a really nice year. McLaurin. Dotson came on. That guy is a freaking stud.
He goes up and gets it.
Yeah. And you know, again, I said, like, it's kind of the Staley situation where Rivera could be fired next year and you could have some hot shot coaching. You could also have a free agent quarterback wash up on the shores of Landover, Maryland, right? I mean, people have been talking about, call me crazy, call it a reach, but, yeah, you got to replace the OC. They've got a nice young core. Yeah.
I considered them, and, you know, they should be better with their most important piece, at least on a piece of paper going into the season, was Chase Young. So if he's healthy and back in form, then they'll be that much better there. Yeah, I love that pick, and I think Sam Howell might work out, not based on what he did in Week 18. I thought he was going to be the Rookie of the Year. I thought if Ron Rivera, at some point, I can't believe in August or whenever, they didn't go like, what the hell with Carson Wentz? How did this happen that we wound up with this cat?
Yeah.
And I mean, they should have just jumped to Sam Howell earlier in the year. But yeah, I think Brian Robinson is a big difference maker back there. I like that team a lot, and they're gonna. I think the Dan Snyder's gonna get moved out of there, right? And so then even that stink. What they have to fix though, those uniforms stink, and same as the Lions, this plague has gotten worse, only worse since we addressed it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
The white pants without stripes. What in hell? This is the National Football League, man.
Stripeless white pants.
I like, well,
can't have it.
I love it in college. I do like it generally. I love it in college.
Right.
I love it in college.
On Penn State, okay. You're an NFL team. Put
Dave,
a stripe
you're up.
on your pants. Show some effort.
He has a good point.
I just restrained myself from diving into uni talk. I should be commended. Dave's pick in the second round. Middle of the second round here.
All right.
I'll
I
pack
didn't
you on
anticipate
the
both
bat.
these teams being on the
Take
board
my strong
here.
hand. Can't
I'm
reach
going to
you.
go with, even though they have to solve the most important position in sports,
No, he's not taking my team.
I'm going to go with the New York Jets.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Good pick.
Let me tell you why very quickly. I think that at least for 1 year, and then we'll see what's on the other side of it, as opposed to when most big brand name QBs become available either in trade or as a free agent, a handful, if not more teams, chase them around and take them out for surf and turf and all that kind of stuff. I think the Jets are in a weird position, and I can't really remember very many teams being in it, where if Brady wants to play, like that might be an option there. If Aaron Rodgers is playing, and I bet you he will, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the answer for them next year.
They interviewed Hackett for that OC job. Yeah,
exactly. But I think that would cinch it. But then again, that's what the Broncos thought a year ago.
Yeah, right.
But I also think it would be hilarious if the same exact pattern that the Hall of Fame first ballot guy in the second half of his career just can't win in big spots.
Yep.
Like he can win a ton of games and win MVPs and everything, but like when he gets to January, for whatever reason, he just flames out, and then he gets to belly aching about it's not my fault, it's the roster, and I'm not respected, and I'm retiring, or maybe I'm not, and then you're gonna draft somebody behind me? How dare you?
Yeah.
Now I am gonna retire, except now I'm coming back and jamming you up, and now I'm still being disrespected, and he could wind up on the Jets. Same thing.
It's like, if Brett Favre was Aaron Rodgers' dad, I think he probably would have hated him. But you know how you grow up and even the things you hate about your parents, like you do them? And I kind of wonder if there's a little bit of that complex where, although Aaron Rodgers took it as abuse, he's doing the same thing to the Packers and probably going to play out his life just the same.
It's so true. Yes. Weirdo decisions are not the same. One has revealed himself to be a volleyball enthusiast. The other one gets weird tattoos and dates witches and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But either way, they both turn weird. But I do think that the Jets, for 1 year, I think he makes them a winner, or maybe it's Derek Carr, or maybe it's Lamar Jackson for all I know. But I think that there are going to be a lot of big name QBs who are like, how about me, Jets?
Yeah.
Hey, Joe Douglas, what do you think? Because that roster's ready to go. The defense is dominant. The pieces are nice there. I think the only thing that concerns me is that the Bills are there.
Yeah, and Breece Hall's got to come back healthy. Mekhi Becton's health's a big issue. It's been a big issue. Open OC spot. How do you think Aaron Rodgers would do in the New York media?
Oh, he'd love it. Can't you see how much he likes? What his thing is, he just likes to he likes for all opinions to be shared. Except then when people share opinions, he gets mad if yours doesn't agree with him. But he's all about free speech and
cancel culture.
What a weirdo. He really he was one of my all-time favorites, and he really turned into a weird dude.
I still enjoy watching him play. He's just definitely it's just a lot. It's like it's another thing after another thing, and and this year I think he finally the bluffing is over. I think he's on the move.
Yeah, I agree with that. Listen, I'm not denouncing him. He can do and think whatever the hell he wants to do with himself. I am resentful, though, of people who assume they are masters of every aspect of the human condition because he does one thing well. You don't know everything about everything because I'm not marginalizing football. But you throw a ball good. You shouldn't involve yourself. You don't know everything about everything, but he has that attitude.
He hadn't earned that.
Final pick of the second round here. I'm gonna go to that division you recently mentioned, Chris, and take losers of 13 of the last 14, the Chicago Bears.
Yeah,
the monsters of the Midway, who have Justin Fields at quarterback.
Yep.
A ton of cap space.
Yep.
They have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft.
Oh, it's lined up.
It's lined up. 3 years from now, they have to be good. It's a bet on have to be.
And Ian Cunningham, my guy, he evidently interviewed with the Cardinals and might have been offered the job, but then he decided to stay home in Chicago. More signs that maybe you don't want to deal with what's going on in Arizona, but they're building something there. A couple NFC North teams are convincing themselves they're building something.
And Eberflus, you don't hear about him in a good way?
No, he's been good. And Getsy, I thought, did a nice job last year. It's just all going to be on Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And obviously using the capital well.
That Herbert's really good.
Yeah.
Legendary Jayhawk.
Well, not to be a pessimist about it, but I don't think Poles showed himself to be a real savvy wheeler and dealer by trading for Chase Claypool and giving away what ended up being the 32nd overall pick.
I think the reason was, and I have him here as a big swing guy for them. He's got to step up, right? Is I think they were looking at this wide receiver class and saying, hey, we got to make a move now if we're going to do it. And I also, maybe it's not the right guy, but I like the spirit of giving Justin, even as you're tanking, subtly tanking. And that's how good Justin Fields was this year at making big plays and getting you hyped for his future, that like you didn't notice they were tanking. It felt like they got better and they won 9 games, or they lost 9 games in a row. So I thought Claypool or a receiver, just somebody that doesn't, not having anybody to throw to hinders your development. And so although they overpaid for him, if they can get something out of him next year, if he's a little bit better next year, I feel like it could end up not being as embarrassing as it might look.
Jerry
right
Jeudy. A little Jerry Jeudy speculation.
Jerry Jeudy
to the Bears.
Jerry Jeudy be fun.
Yeah. I don't like this pick. I hate this pick because they so overachieved this season. It didn't make any sense. It's the Seattle Seahawks.
Fuck! The whole board.
They got picks 5 and 20. Now you re-sign Geno. That's a no-brainer. Is he good in 3 years? I don't know. But they've drafted so well. Kenneth Walker, I love. Tariq Woolen, I love. The organizational line.
Juju?
Structure.
Yep.
Juju. Structure.
Mm-hmm.
It's good vibes up there. Plenty of cap space. 9 and 8.
Running out of teams here.
Figured they'd be 3 and 14. That said, a 3-year horizon, I don't know. They could be right back at we'll be probably playing 20 regular season games by then. Seattle Seahawks, I don't know. Taking a flyer on the organization because they seem to draft well, even though when it looks silly, like taking a running back high every single draft.
Well, they do draft well once every 10 years or so at least.
Well,
so
they've drafted well since Pete ceded a little bit of the responsibility. And I think, having those 2 coordinators come back and Hurt and Waldron, and they're just similar to Detroit, I think, in a way that they're like, okay, we have a guy that we might be able to win with in the short term. And if he's not our long-term guy, okay. I mean, we don't want to waste the window on some of these really good rookies we have. Like Geno could be back.
Don't trade down.
Yeah, no.
Take a guy at 5. Don't trade down.
5th and 20th picks.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dave's up. He took the Miami Dolphins.
If you could get C.J. Stroud, that would be hard to pass on. But obviously, that high up, you're going to be able to get some stud at some position there. I'm going to go Miami Dolphins. I'm bummed because as a Vane guy, I was positive that people were not seeing what was clear to me. Tua gets hurt, so it feels like 17 months ago that the Dolphins came out of came into September on that heater, and it was like, whoa, this Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle stuff is going to work with Mike McDaniel, and Tua is born anew.
Some of us,
and then he got hurt, and then everybody just forgot about them. Like, it was a mirage. You're like, well, yeah, their quarterback got hurt. What do you want him to do?
I think
Teddy
there
B.
was some poor play before the injury. That
Careful.
I think they were maybe even undefeated. Maybe,
no, but they went through that skid in December, and you kind of look at it and you're like, all right. And I've been like one of these poster children for Tua haters or whatever you want to call me. They put me on Cuck Mountain. It's like some mountain they put people with at the time what looks like really bad hot takes, and then by the end of the season we all look like fucking geniuses. How's the property value on Cuck Mountain? But whether it was the Chargers game, whether it was the Niners game, a couple of those games late in the season, it just looked like the moments got a little big. I thought he played well in Buffalo, but if I'm them, I'm still not convinced.
That's funny you say that, and when somebody tries to tell you you're going on Cuck Island, just hit your cough button.
Yeah, the cough button.
It doesn't even get into your ears.
Exactly.
I'm impenetrable.
I won't even hear it.
The reason I disagree is they were, and I do think that some coaches get to the league and then they just jump everybody else for 1 year. Lamar Jackson in 2019, they went all in on that, and it worked for that 1 year as I predicted it would, and they dominated. And nobody knew, like, what the hell? What kind of witchcraft is this guy pulling off? Are the Baltimore Ravens doing in our league? I think that's what happened this year. We'll see. But I do think that Tua's big spot was, remember the week running up to the trip to Buffalo. It was like, it's going to be snowy, and and them fancy boys from Florida ain't going to be able to hang. That's what happens when you come up to the snow in a place like this. This is where you get your comeuppance. And I knew it. You could make a case they should have won that game. Either way, they lost it in the last minute because Josh Allen did some superhuman stuff. But
and that's the stuff they're not going to get out of Tua.
Yeah, I mean, okay,
and that's
I buy.
The difference. You know,
I buy
that's,
you're not
that's
crazy,
the
but
yeah, to me at least.
Yeah, but they're only. I will say that ultimately, franchise QB is one category, and paying a guy 35 or 45 million, doesn't turn you magically into a high-end QB just because you pay that guy that kind of bank. But really, there are 5 guys who can pull their team, their mediocre team, deep into the playoffs. I mean, we talk like that's true about a number of guys, but it's really a very small number. And the guy who's doing that more than anybody right now is Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I think he has to, like people like, he's trying to do too much. No, he understands he has to do everything. That defense is fraudulent at this point, and he understands that he's their best running option. And Stephon Diggs is dynamite. But after that, if Josh Allen doesn't do it, then the Bills ain't going to win.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's neither here nor there. But to answer the Tua concerns that you can see where his ceiling is, I don't know. I like that offense, and I think if they could get a full season with that, I guess, though, there's some concern of, is Tua
that's another thing.
supposed to be playing at that size?
When the pocket's not clean, he's different. And, I'm not – injuries, he can't control injuries, but he is slighter, and if he gets hit a lot, I mean, he's liable to get hurt. And I'm not talking about the concussions. I mean, that's another issue too. But on top of that is he's just not a big guy, and they've had problems on the offensive line. They bring in a couple dudes. They bring in the guy from Dallas. They bring in the guy from New Orleans, but it just didn't pay off, in my opinion, especially because of the Armstead injuries through the year. And my question to you would be, because I know how attractive Miami is to free agents, and I know how Mike's a well-respected coach, young coach, but well-respected. They got to replace Josh Boyer. I think if you have a franchise quarterback, one of the, albeit like an aging one like Tom Brady, or decomposing one like Tom Brady, or like an aging one like Aaron Rodgers, I still think they're probably going to, hey, I want to play at Miami. Sorry, Tua. Right? I mean, wouldn't you think?
I guess that's an interesting
Lamar
thought.
Jackson, Lamar's from Miami. So if Tua can clear all those hurdles, would I rather have Tua or Derek Carr? I'm not going to change things around for Derek Carr. I'm not going to change things around for Jimmy G. But I do think he affects their ceiling, over 3 years.
Yeah,
interesting thought. And but this is a 3-year proposition. So if they fall on their face, then the ubiquity of QBs is a big difference now. And I know that then people push back at me and like, then why was Skylar Thompson playing in a playoff game? Because you can't just take a guy off another team's roster. But there are solves in the offseason that are available. And this is going to be the juiciest QB carousel of all time. We've seen some great ones the last 5 years. This is going to be the best one yet. So, yes, next year will also be that way. So if Tua falls on his face in 23, then I trust that they'll figure it out.
Okay, I'm going to draft the Raiders.
Okay.
I really am. For the fact that I think the Brady thing, if he plays – and, hey, I'm the one the other night who said, like, hey, he didn't look great. And if I'm a team, I don't know if I'm necessarily going to be jumping at the opportunity to give up a bunch to go get Brady or pay Brady a bunch, but I don't know what kind of deal he's looking for. You already have Adams and Waller signed to big deals. You've got the Josh Jacobs, free agency is a big deal because and they have a decision to make. Like, are we going to pay a running back? Or are we going to be can we find somebody else to carry this around? I don't think you can replace Josh Jacobs. He's 24 years old. That's a big one for me. Is like this guy's not 27; he's 24.
He might be 27 in running back years.
He might be 27 in running back years. I mean, he's shouldered a heavy load, but his age is his age. And I think Max Crosby got a big deal. They're $34 million under the cap. If they can figure out the quarterback thing, even on a 1-year deal, I think they could be in a good situation the next year to do it again with another veteran
like
or something.
The Colts.
Like Kirk Cousins. Yeah, but like a better version of the Colts. Like
what would happen? What do the Raiders do if Aaron Rodgers says, we've heard the Raiders say we're going all in on on Chase and Brady. But what if Aaron Rodgers like, hey, I still like Devontae Adams. He's still my pal. How about me?
I'd go Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is physically in a much better spot than Brady is. I mean, Brady just didn't look like himself this year, and I think Monday was more of that. They pick at 7 and 39, so I'm picking a couple teams that don't have answers at quarterback here currently, but I'll go Raiders. Am I crazy to take the Ravens? Because no matter what happens, I think they're in decent shape. I think they're in a really stable position. I think that John Harbaugh, although we've decided that the Harbaughs are sociopaths, I think he's a good football coach, and I think he's been kind of a beacon of stability there for a long time. I think the Greg Roman thing is going to be a net positive no matter who it is, and maybe they've woken themselves up. Like if they can find a way to re-sign Lamar, they're going to be fine. If they didn't, maybe they'll have to go out and spend on some weapons for the next guy, and they'll learn their lesson. They have $52 million in cap space next year. The 5 draft picks, they pick at 22. So I actually don't mind the Ravens' outlook.
I think that they kind of indicated that if you saw any of the press conference that DaCosta and Harbaugh had, and they said good things about Lamar Jackson being back. It's a major what they did in after 2018. It's a fascinating story because Harbaugh got a lot of credit for, hey, gotta tip your cap to him. Look at what he did with Lamar. He made a hard right turn. Like, yeah, he and ownership agreed that 2018 was his last year halfway through the year because things were going south. And he was out the door, and Flacco then got hurt. And they're like, well, we got to run out the season now with Lamar Jackson. And then he ran him into the playoffs, and then things turned wildly on that. And then they devoted all offensive resources to not just making their quarterback in a good spot like you talk about with the Bears and giving Justin Fields a receiver. That's a particular kind of offense that you're building for Lamar Jackson. Yeah. So it's a hard thing to do to keep on winning at 30,000 feet and swapping out offensive philosophies, which now they have to do. Or, at least they have to find a new OC that's going to do what Greg Roman kind of sort of did in the run game. That's going to be weird. I don't think Lamar is there more than 1 year. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes down. I think it's already tracking a little bit like it did with Levy and Bell and the Steelers. Like, yeah, I'm hurt. I can't go in the big game. Yeah, I would, but what do you want me to do? I'm injured. Mm-hmm. Sorry, team. So I think that's actually I like the way they draft. They're stable. They're a mirror image of the Steelers. That's why it's a great rivalry because they draft the exact same guys. Yep. They would, if the guy was there that the Ravens just took, the Steelers would have taken them and vice versa very often. Yep. If you actually look at the specific names, that's literally true with several examples. But, I'm surprised. So the one nobody's touching. We're all good moral souls here because nobody's taking that team on the wrong side of the
they weren't on my
Pennsylvania border.
Yeah,
they're on your board.
They're on the
right.
board.
They're not on my board.
Blue chippers.
They're on your board?
Yeah, they're on the board.
Okay, who's up?
Dave's up.
It's me, and I should go. I should stay in this division and go elsewhere, but I can't help myself. I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts.
My next pick.
They're in a good spot there. Pick. I love watching Will Levis. I didn't know who he was 2 years ago when I was watching him, and I was like, who is this UK QB? He's dynamite with this weird sidearm throw. Nevertheless, he's electric. I don't know, though, that you take him over C.J. Stroud. I think that the early returns are that they might. Also, talking about Tua, I wonder if that ends up dinging Bryce Young. I mean, I thought he was like 6 foot at least, but he's 5'10".
Yeah, he's not.
I mean,
he's not a big guy. I mean, like it's a crapshoot, right? I mean, but Tua also had the injuries in college, right? You know, the hip thing. There was some other stuff, but hey, Bryce Young has stayed relatively healthy. You know, some guys are injury prone a little bit more than others, and you know, if you're slight on top of that, yeah, it makes for an interesting analysis of this draft class.
But I mean, you know, bottom line, if they get it right, then they'll be good in 2 years.
No question.
If they get one of those 3 guys, then they're going to be good. We know that they're not going to do the free agent thing again because they've done it for the last 17 straight seasons with mixed results. So they're going to draft somebody. If they get that right, then in that bum division, they should be. Well, who knows? Maybe
well, you never know.
Jags
could be here to stay, and then the floor on Tennessee's lower, I guess, or higher than most places.
Sure. Oh, and I guess they also need to hire a coach.
There's that little thing.
All right, I'll park in the same garage. No coach, no quarterback. The Houston Texans.
No problem.
You know, it's got to turn around. 12 picks, plenty cap space. God, is it depressing in that stadium with those. I've never seen such a good uniform as the Houston Texans.
Yeah. Oh my God! I was just gonna say that's the first order of business when you get in there. You got like we're changing these garbage, just completely forgettable uniforms. I talked to Arian Foster about it once. Who in the hell decided 10 years ago they were okay when they had the red socks because the red really popped? But whoever said let's replace those with navy socks to make these as bland as possible? Shame the devil.
Shame the devil.
Did you see well, of course you saw it. The Chargers wear black cleats with all whites on Saturday night because
that looks nice.
Because Brandon Staley said, "Hey, we're going to be like the mid-90s Bulls."
Yeah, that's just like.
He showed him.
I didn't know about that. No, I didn't hear that.
Showed him.
I wouldn't make that comparison.
Pictures of the mid-90s Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost.
But
electric.
I do like the aesthetic of the black shoes, and in fact, for the betterment of these dumb referees who involve themselves and spoil results of games all the time, black shoes should be required because then they have less of an excuse for whether or not the foot was out of bounds or not.
I don't think I got out-coached by Doug Peterson. If it was a 7-game series, we probably win.
That's right.
Like the mid-90s Bulls.
That's right. I will trust this organization to figure it out.
Fuck, you're going to take my team.
It's the New England Patriots. And
I
was this close on the Bronnies. Is that how we say it?
The Browns.
The Browns. But Pats, for no good reason.
God. Well, I'll tell you why. Because if somebody says, Robert Kraft says, like, hey, I don't know how he said, the Patriots.
Germany.
If he says, Bill, we've had enough offensively. You have to see control of the offense. We're going to bring in a real offensive coordinator.
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, somebody, I mean, one of these big guys, right? One of these big old school guys that can actually call plays. The Pats have a terrific defense. They have $58 million in cap space. I think the Pats should be a destination for one of the big 3 that people are talking about at the quarterback position this offseason, including Tom Brady. I really do. I think
in the 14th pick, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about.
Go give him Dave's guy, Jordan Addison.
Yeah, sure.
That loyal USC Trojan.
Sure, yeah. I mean, he's got some Pitt in his roots. So, yeah, what?
Nah, I'm just trying to be hilarious.
Oh, okay. It's working.
Pitt and his roots.
Yeah, right? Wasn't he at Pitt for a hot second? Yeah, he's got some Pitt. Yeah. That's why Dave likes him.
Oh, yeah, I was trying to give him a hard time.
Yeah, no, I know. People, it's the wound is still
Keaton Slovis.
Yeah.
Federico. Oh, Keaton Slovis, dude. He was a bummer, dude. We thought he was going to be the real deal. Come on, play just like Kenny Pickett did. Next thing you know, Heisman Trophy, dude. Back on playing on New Year's Day. Didn't work out. We got the local kid, Phil Jerkovic, coming back to town, though. We're in good shape, Pitt Panthers.
DC Eagle.
Look out, UVA.
Hey, what about those jersey numbers that Pitt's wearing across the board
I like
here?
Those.
There's probably a church or something they're trying to
Gothic.
mirror.
It's
Yeah.
Gothic.
You like them or you don't like them, Dave?
Wait, in basketball or football?
The numbers.
Both. They wear them in both.
Oh, yeah, they wear. Yeah, they're
pointy,
top pointy.
pointy
Yeah,
eights.
they try too hard.
tops.
I don't like that.
Okay.
I think it is a little try hard.
Okay. Is it me now?
Dave.
Dave, okay.
No,
Dave.
it's me. Boy, there's some really good options out there. I could go in
Not
a
the way I'm
number of
seeing
different
it.
Well,
directions.
take your time.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go with the thing that I like. I like this head coach.
Atlanta Falcons.
I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
Because Kirk Cousins, this is going to be an uninspired year, but he'll do what he does, and so they'll probably win 9 to 11 games next year. But at some point, they'll move on from Kirk Cousins, and I like the head coach, and I like a lot of the pieces on that roster.
They're in that funky position. You got to rebuild the defense, and Kirk has to win, but not too much. Because like you said, like they could win 10 games, and then it's like you got to replace them, and they're in purgatory.
20, yeah.
So yeah, but he's a great coach. You can tell already. And I just mentioned the Falcons. I don't think I'm going to pick the Falcons, but how do you guys feel about the $69 million in cap space? They got to replace the DC. They need a quarterback, but they have Arthur Smith.
Well, they went 7 and 10.
Pick 8 and pick 45. I'm choosing. This is the final pick in the draft. I need you guys to help me here.
I would love the Falcons, but I have a feeling that one spot that like the marriage that makes a ton of sense is Lamar Jackson to the Falcons, and I think that's and I like Lamar a great deal as a weapon out there and what he can do. But man, how can anybody commit long term to him? And it is going to be. I don't mean to conflate Lamar Jackson with Deshaun Watson as a human being, but in the same way, like who. If you get hurt in Tom Brady missed a whole year, Drew Brees missed a whole year, Roethlisberger got hurt repeatedly, but those guys didn't miss back-to-back giant chunks of the second half of the season.
Right.
It's hard to justify, like, yeah, that's our guy, but I think it's going to be in the same way Deshaun Watson sweepstakes kept going higher and higher to the point that it got ridiculous. Yep. Somebody's going to overplay their hand and be like, all right, Lamar, we'll give you 5 years.
They got the space, and I like your take of Atlanta, and like Tannehill, not the same athlete that Lamar is, but obviously his mobility opened some things up for Arthur Smith, and but I'm going to take your Broncos, Reed.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Broncos.
Wow.
Yeah, because
that's fun.
And the offhand chance that somebody that figures this shit out with Russell Wilson, like, let's rewind to August.
Oh boy,
Russ with a
division
pulling
winners
up in the Hummer.
Yeah.
You've got all these weapons at wide receiver. You get Tim Patrick back. You get Javonte Williams back. Your defense is a nice young core. There's some good rushers there. You also were able to deal Bradley Chubb, which I think was the right thing, and I think you're going to end up winning that trade. But yeah, like this is all contingent on you landing Sean Payton or something. But if you don't land Sean Payton or something, and somebody you can't figure out how to make Russell more efficient, because like you can tell me he can't make the top end plays anymore, but you can't tell me that he's not capable of checking down and managing a game with the skill set he has. And that was the one thing I said going into this year is like he's got to be able to take what they give him, and his role is going to be a little bit different. Although it was a defensive team at times when he was in Seattle, you got to play a little bit more under control, especially after the last couple of years. If they can get somebody to do that, I think they're actually pretty decent. It's just been the Russell Wilson mystery. Like Nathaniel Hackett, we all agreed was awful as a head coach, like historically bad. He's one of the few guys that got fired that early. I mean, there's like a handful of them, but over the last 30 years, there hasn't been many guys who have not survived the first year. And so, like, if you take that at face value, buy low, and I'll take the Broncos with the Mr. Irrelevant pick.
I kind of like it. It makes sense in
I can talk you into
simple terms anything. That Sean Payton made Drew Brees work. Russell Wilson's favorite player is Drew Brees. They have similar games. Russ at his height threw a better deep ball, but I could see that kind of making sense to Sean Payton to go a mile high and try and make.
Now I don't know they can pay. They got money, unlike the Chargers, which is part of the reason why maybe they're like, we don't want to fire Brandon Staley and have to pay somebody else like a Sean Payton, that sort of thing. So, again, check back in a week or two or whenever they hire.
3 years,
we'll check back in 3 years.
3-year outlook, I took Chargers, Bears, Seahawks, Texans, Patriots. Dave took Steelers, Jets, Dolphins, Colts, Vikings. Chris took Lions, Commanders, Raiders, Ravens, Broncos.
Mine looks really nasty. But I ended up in
No
some
one took
really
the
shitty
Browns.
spots.
I know. The Browns.
Well, we don't support that. What's going
Good.
on over there?
You're a noble soul.
Yeah, we are.
This
Noble
was
souls.
delightful.
Yeah, that was fun, man.
Good times, fellas.
Dave, it was good to see you again, buddy.
A pleasure to see you guys. Enjoy the big games. Man, I love these matchups this weekend. Good
Can't
times.
wait,
Be
buddy.
fun.
Can't wait. You have fun.
Take care of
Okay.
yourself, Dave.
Enjoy yourself.
You too. Let's catch up soon.
Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.